And welcome. The meeting of the Arizona Board of Regents was called to order this morning before convening an executive session. A quick reminder, Arizona State University COVID protocols require face coverings inside all ASU classrooms. They're also required inside all ASU buildings where physical distancing is not possible. Today's public meeting is scheduled until 5:15 p.m. Later this evening, there is a reception and dinner to honor Regent Ridenour, who is nearing completion of his term of service, and former Regents Taylor Robson and King. After the Pledge of Allegiance, we will take a few minutes to share a few remarks from Governor Ducey in recognition of Regent Ridenour's and former Regents Taylor Robson and King's service. And we do have a full agenda today, so we will try and be mindful of the time. Regent Ridenour, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I could. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And if we could, please cue the video.
Hi, this is Governor Ducey. It's my honor to pay tribute to three outstanding regents who will have a long-lasting impact on our state. First, I want to thank Regent Catherine Hackett King, who is now Justice King, for her continued dedication to public service. During her time on the board, she established herself as an advocate for students and helped increase educational attainment and access. And she served not just our kids, but all Arizonans. Justice King has worked in all three branches of government, including my office as Deputy General Counsel. Kate has long been a tireless advocate for education in Arizona, and she continues to serve the state in her new role on the Arizona State Supreme Court. Thank you for your commitment to Arizonans, Justice King. Next, I would like to take a moment to thank Regent Karen Taylor Robson for her service on the board. Karen is a champion of Arizona's public universities and student success. During her time on the board, she was committed to civil discourse, democratic engagement, and civic education. Regent Taylor Robson understands the importance of civic engagement and free speech on our college campuses, and she found a way to promote those values when she helped create the Regents Cup. I'm grateful for her long-standing commitment to Arizona's public universities. Finally, I want to honor Regent Bill Ridenour as he nears completion of his 8-year term on the Arizona Board of Regents. Regent Ridenour knows the value of education and the way it can forever change someone's life for the better. During his term as chair of the board, he worked to improve access to our public higher education for Arizonans. He was also instrumental in launching the Arizona Teachers Academy, which provides tuition coverage for students who agree to teach in Arizona schools. I'm grateful for his lifelong commitment to the students and families of Arizona, and I wish him all the best in the future. Thank you all. I look forward to seeing what you'll accomplish next.
Thank you, Governor Ducey, for those remarks. Regent Ridenour, as you conclude your term on the board, we really want to thank you for your dedication and your commitment to public higher education in Arizona. There are so many things that you deserve credit for, and I'm really looking forward to this evening and having a chance to talk about a number of those.
Well, it was my pleasure. Thank you all for those of you put up with me for 8 years, or some of you, especially Regent Shootman, and my warped sense of humor as I went along. But I will say, a long history of working in children's issues and educational issues. This has truly been the culmination of my career, and I very much enjoyed my participation on the Board of Regents. So thank all of you.
We look forward to this evening. I'd also like to congratulate Regent Dave on being named the Outstanding Undergraduate for the School of the Future of Innovation in Society during the December 2021 convocation ceremony. So. And then one.
I was just going to say thank you so much, Chair Manson, and hopefully more good news to come.
There you go. I'd also like to take this opportunity to welcome Kevin Smith to the board office. Kevin is joining our legal counsel team and has served as the Assistant Attorney General for the past 23 years. So Kevin, welcome. We look forward to working with you. Can you wave your hand? There he is. Then President Crow, thank you and your staff for hosting this meeting. I know that it's complicated in this age, but we really appreciate it. Our next order of business is the call to the audience. And so if you have any materials for the Regents, please give them to the board secretary, Suzanne Templin. She's sitting at the table to my right, and she will distribute them to the Regents. Pursuant to board policy, time's been set aside for the call to the audience, and it's an opportunity for individuals to address the entire board in a public setting to express their views or concerns regarding matters of board governance. The board reserves the right to limit the number of presenters on any one topic. Regents do not respond to comments during the call to the audience. However, we do hear your remarks, and we ask the appropriate person to follow up and provide us with information on any issues raised. When you're called to speak, please proceed to the lectern. Suzanne will hold up a sign signaling how much time the speaker has remaining, and at the end of your 3 minutes, we ask that you conclude your remarks. So I believe we have one call to the audience.
Carla Krivekis.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Regents. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Carla Phillips Krivekis, and I've had the pleasure of working with some of you in my previous roles at the legislature, the governor's office, the Department of Education, and even during my time here at ASU in the Government Relations Office, which seems like a really long time ago, by the way. But today I'm coming to you in my new role as CEO and founder of Think Inclusion, with the mission to ensure that students with disabilities are included in every policy, program, and initiative that our state undertakes. Last year, I approached staff about the inclusion of data for the students with disabilities in your post-secondary attainment report. And to their credit, in particular, John Arnold and Chad Sampson, they immediately agreed, and I worked with them to ensure that we incorporated that into the data sharing agreement with ADE. But we took it a step further, if you saw in the report, and we requested that that data be disaggregated by the 13 disability categories required under federal law. It doesn't take hard to convince you that the learning needs of someone with dyslexia are very different from the learning needs of someone that is hearing impaired. And one of my big goals is to break the myths of special education. And one of the most pervasive myths is that students with disabilities all have a cognitive impairment. However, in Arizona, nearly 65% of students with disabilities come from 3 categories that are considered to be very mild in nature, such as dyslexia, speech impairment, or attention deficit disorder. Indeed, only 6% of Arizona students with disabilities have an intellectual disability as their primary diagnosis. And nationwide, it has been estimated that 80 to 85% of students with disabilities could achieve at similar levels as their peers if given the necessary services, supports, and accommodations. The report that you guys put out in November showed that we had 7,066 students with disabilities that graduated 12th grade in 2020. Only 870 of them enrolled in a 2-year institution with 1 year, and only 342 enrolled in a 4-year institution. But what's more notable is the gap. While 28% of the general student population enrolled in a 4-year institution, only 5% of students with disabilities did. This level of disaggregation can help us all to craft the unique supports each student may need. And furthermore, it is my hope that the disability-specific community stakeholders can begin to take this data and also target their supports. This is data that has never been seen before, and it's not because it's new, but it's because no one else has asked. And I will tell you, I've been doing my darndest to make sure that everybody in the country knows that Arizona was the first to do that. I've already gotten calls from 4 other states wanting to know how to replicate that process because they didn't know that data existed. I'm here to say thank you, especially to your staff, and to request that this effort continue on through to all ABOR reports and metrics. Tracking and improving the outcomes and attainment for students with disabilities will only serve to improve the overall metrics of each university and ultimately help Arizona to reach our goal of supporting 60% of adults with a professional certificate or degree by 2030. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. The next item is the consent agenda. The board is asked to approve the consent agenda, and items on the consent agenda include items 9 through 26. Does anyone have a conflict to declare on any of these items?
I have some items to declare. I'd like to recuse myself from items 19, 20, and 21 on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Regent Dave. We will therefore have 2 motions on the consent agenda. The first will allow Regent Dave to participate on the first motion and then recuse himself from the second. So I move that the board approve items 9 through 18 and 21 through 26 as listed on the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion does carry. I now move that the board approve items 19 through 21 as listed on the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion does carry. Thank you. Our next order of business is legislative affairs, and I'd like to welcome Paige Gonzalez and Larry Sandigo and the University Government Affairs representatives to discuss our legislative affairs portion of the agenda.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair Manson, Regents, and University Presidents. I'm here to present 5 bills to you today as we move through the legislative process that we're asking that you take positions on. You have one document in front of you that's called Bills for Discussion and Possible Action. I'll cover these bills, and then after this, I'd like to give you an update on the status of other bills that you've taken a position on from our previous meeting. The first bill is House Bill 2691. This is a healthcare workforce grant bill sponsored by Representative Osborne. It appropriates $15 million from the general fund to increase capacity of nursing education programs, $27 million for nurse clinical rotations, and $500,000 for a preceptor grant program. This will likely end up in budget negotiations, but we would recommend that the Regents support and monitor for amendments to this bill. The second bill is Senate Bill 1324, the Smart and Safe Fund, sponsored by Senator Shope. It modifies the distribution from the Smart and Safe Fund, and we would like to work to amend this bill to include campus police as being able to participate in that funding formula. So we would recommend that you support this with an amendment. The third bill is Senate Bill 1406. This is codifying in statute military leave for service policies that the universities currently have in their policies. So we would like to amend the bill to be sure it aligns with what the policies we have are and ensure student success. So we would recommend that we remain neutral on that bill, but with an amendment as it moves through the process. The next bill is Senate Bill 1626. This is Senator Mesnard's bill. It establishes a prevention of sexual misconduct on campus task force at the legislature. And it includes some language in it that is duplicative of what we already report through the Clery Act, and there are definitions that do not align with federal law. So we would like to monitor this and work closely with stakeholders to address our concerns. And the last bill is Senate Bill 1714. It's Senator Gowan's bill that appropriates $5 million from the general fund to upgrade and operate the veterinary diagnostic lab at U of A. So we would recommend support of that bill.
Thank you, Paige. Are there any comments or questions from the board? Then I'm going to make a motion that the board support House Bill 2691 and Senate Bill 1714, and that we support with amendments Senate Bill 1324. We will be also that we will be neutral with amendment Senate Bill 1406 and monitor and work with stakeholders on Senate Bill 1626. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion does carry. And Paige, you can now provide us with a legislative update.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Manson. I'll take a few minutes to review some bills that you have taken a position on. House Bill 2031, this is the other document you have, by the way. It says Bills of Interest, Status Update. House Bill 2031, Higher Ed Individuals with Disabilities. This bill detailed the documentation that a university must accept to establish that an individual seeking admission has a disability. You had directed us to support with an amendment. An amendment was adopted in the House and the bill was third read and transmitted to the Senate, but we believe that it needs to be maybe further clarifying language. So we're going to continue to work with the sponsor and the stakeholders to amend it again. But it is over in the Senate waiting to be heard. Let's see, House Bill 2276. This is you asked us to oppose this bill. This is Representative Fillmore's bill that adds the Regents, colleges, school districts to the list of entities that a legislator could file a request with the Attorney General's office to investigate if that legislator believes that a law has been violated. That bill was assigned to House Government and Elections, and we're awaiting an agenda. Next week's the last week to hear bills in their committees of their chambers of origin. So we expect that to end up on an agenda. It just hasn't yet. That's the status of that bill. House Bill 2322 is the hazing bill. You directed us to support that with an amendment. I'm happy to report we did get the amendment on there to remove the term unofficial from the definition of organization. That bill passed out of the House Government and Elections Committee 12-1, and now it's waiting House floor action. House Bill 2447 is the House version of the campus carry bill. Just recently, last night, the House Committee on Judiciary met until about 7 o'clock. This was the last bill on their agenda. And despite our opposition, the bill did pass by party lines. And now it will await House floor action. And I want to thank Chief Thompson for helping us, Dr. Crow, at each of these committees that we've testified on the campus bills. He's been very good. Let's see. The next two bills I'll take, and I know one of them, the number's out of order just because they're of the same context. 2351 continues the Regents for 3 years. Senate Bill 1368 continues the Regents for 8 years. The first bill passed out of House Education, the 3-year continuation 9-1. The Senate version of 8 years passed out unanimously out of Senate Education. We're going to work to reconcile those two. It'll be interesting, but those will move through the floor and probably be exchanged to the chambers. The next bill conforms to federal law. This is Senate Bill 1115. You directed us to support that bill that deals with in-state student status for veterans. That bill did pass the Senate already 28-0 and is awaiting in the House for action. The next bill, Senate Bill 1123, is the Senate version of the campus carry bill, sponsored by Senator Rogers. That bill passed out of Senate Judiciary 4-3 a couple of weeks ago, and it awaits Senate floor action. It has not been scheduled yet. So we are going to continue to oppose that bill. The next bill, Senate Bill 1271, is the Arizona Veterinary Loan Assistance Program bill, sponsored by Senator Shope. You directed us to support that bill. That bill did pass Senate Appropriations 10-0 and awaits floor action. It will probably become a part of the budget discussion as well. The last bill is the conforming bill that transfers the duties and responsibilities of the Post-Secondary Ed Commission to Abort. It's really a cleanup bill from last year. It's Senate Bill 1321. We do support that bill, and it passed out of Senate Education 8-0. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none. Thank you, Paige. Oh, we did have one,
Just a
sorry.
brief one, Paige. I'm curious, you said the Udall bill on the Regents extension was 9-1. Was a amendment offered to the Boyer 8-year that was defeated, or is it not? That's all we have.
Well,
is the
not yet.
9-1.
So,
Yeah, okay.
so in the committees, so the Senator Boyer's bill was 8 years. There was no amendment, just a flat 8 years, and it passed unanimously out of the Senate Education Committee. On the House side, that's a 3-year, and that was not amended to bring it to the committee of reference either. So you've got an 8-year and a 3-year that haven't made it to each chamber's floor yet, but we'll have to work on that to reconcile.
Anything else? Okay.
Thank you so
Paige.
much.
Appreciate it. Our next item of business is the request for ratification of appointment of Karen Pugliesi as the Interim Executive Vice President and University Provost for Northern Arizona University. President Cruz-Rudera, could you please present that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Teaching, learning, and scholarship are the core of our university's mission, and I am pleased to have Dr. Karen Pugliesi leading our institutional efforts to advance equitable post-secondary value and inclusive academic excellence. In recognition of the central importance of our expansive academic enterprise, I have elevated the provost role to an executive vice president position. As EVP and university provost, Dr. Pugliesi provides leadership over our academic enterprise, faculty, and academic operations, overseeing more than 95 undergraduate, 75 graduate, and 75 certificate programs delivered through our 10 colleges. In addition, she is responsible for the Klein Library, online and educational initiatives, and the Center for International Education. Karen's background as a first-generation college graduate gives her a unique and valued perspective that prioritizes our mission of access and student success. She has served at NAU in a variety of capacities for over 30 years and brings a wealth of institutional knowledge to this role. Most recently, Dr. Pugliesi served as the Dean of the College of Social and Behavioral Sciences and as Vice Provost for Academic Affairs. A full professor of sociology, she has also served as chair of the Department of Sociology and Social Work and as founding dean of the college. Dr. Pugliesi earned her undergraduate degree from Utah State University and a PhD in sociology from Washington State University. Throughout her career at NAU, Dr. Pugliesi has repeatedly demonstrated her commitment to collaborative, effective, and mission-driven leadership, as evidenced by her significant contributions to many departments and programs, including supporting various university academic initiatives, facilitating the use of technology in instruction, and promoting best business processes in support of enrollment and student progression, curriculum, instructional planning, and academic assessment. Dr. Pugliesi's long history of collaborative and transparent leadership uniquely positions her to successfully serve as Interim Executive Vice President and University Provost and propel NAU's efforts to become a national leader in providing equitable post-secondary value to students. Her leadership has been instrumental to our success since the beginning of my presidency, and I look forward to her continued service and partnership in helping NAU realize our bold and ambitious goals.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the board? I move that the board ratify President Cruz-Rudera's appointment of Karen Pugliesi as Northern Arizona University's Interim Executive Vice President and University Provost for Northern Arizona University. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? The motion does carry. Thank you. Our next item is the Arizona State University Capital Development Plan and License Agreement Approval. Morgan Olson will present.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. What you have in front of you is our regular semi-annual update to our capital development plan. There's two things that we are requesting today. The first is for the approval of an amendment to our capital development plan. There's only one change. That is on our multipurpose arena project. The board back in November of 2020 approved that project with a budget of $115 million. We come to you today to ask you to authorize an increased budget of $134.7 $7 million. The second thing that we request is that there is a board policy that limits agreements with professional sports teams to 3 years, and we're asking for authorization to exceed that 3-year limit. That's Abort Policy 7-208, and in a moment I'll tell you why. Back in December of 2021, the Arizona Coyotes National Hockey League team approached the university. They were interested in the possibility of playing for at least the next 3 NHL seasons in our newly constructed multipurpose arena. They need a new home because their lease with the city of Glendale for Gila River Arena in Glendale is ending at the end of this NHL season. They do, as you may be aware, have a proposal in front of the city of Tempe for the construction of a new NHL arena at the northeast corner of Rio Salado and Priest. That's under consideration at the current time, which leads to them needing a place to play in the interim. So we've been engaged in a series of discussions with the team about that, and we have developed an approach that we think will accommodate that and be beneficial to the university. And so if I can get the, there we go, the clicker to work here. This is our Novus Innovation Corridor Master Development Plan, which the board has seen multiple times. The area that we're talking about is the red square there, sort of in the middle. It is west of Rural Road and north of University. It's in the area that's just north of Phase 3 of Novus that we're working on at the northwest corner of University and Rural. If you've been by recently, you're aware that there is a tremendous amount of development there. In fact, about $1 billion of development between things that the university is doing and things that are being done by the private sector. The university is has created a new road that runs north-south between University and ultimately up to what will be the new 3rd Street that you can see on the graphic here. Novus Place by name will be sort of the spine of this part of the Novus Innovation Corridor, and the arena will sit right to the west of that Novus Place spine that I mentioned. Here are a couple of renderings of the MPA, which is currently under construction. This is a view from the street from the southeast. Here is a view from the southwest. The facility itself that's under construction has a 5,000 seat capacity for athletic events, where the middle of the floor is obviously used for the competition, 6,000 for other types of events when we can seat people on the floor. It also has a second community rink where much as we plan to do with other aspects of Novus, we do want to engage the community and make it a place for the community to come. And so the community rink will be an asset for that. And for other reasons, we believe we can help build the sport of hockey, support youth hockey, other types of competitions as well. We believe our students will use it in a wide variety of ways. We now have 3 men's and 1 women's club hockey team that will be able to play in this venue as well. You're looking at a view across Packard Drive. For some of you may be familiar with the campus, and a depiction of what we think will ultimately be around the MPA itself. So the area in question that we're talking about would require an annex that would be at the northeast corner of the multipurpose arena. North is at the top of this diagram, and you can see the what's labeled here is the additional locker complex that would be required. It's roughly a 15,000 gross square foot facility that we're talking about, and so the $19.7 million addition to our capital development plan would be the authorization for spending on this. At all times, this will be a university facility. It will be constructed and operated by the university using the same design and construction team that is doing very well on the MPA today. The location, here's a shot of it. This is looking from the northeast. You can see Sun Devil Stadium in the background. And right now we are on budget and actually ahead of schedule on the MPA construction. We anticipate that it will be done in October of this year. So maybe you can switch here, and if all goes well, we'll give you a quick shot of what the arena looks like today. This is the webcam that I look at rather frequently. This is real time. So on the upper left, maybe you can, there are various views of it here, but if you would zero in, yes, thank you, on that view. This is what it looks like as we speak. They are just placing the top layer of the piping that is necessary to create the ice. There will then be a sheet of concrete that will go over the top of this. And I think you ought to be able to pan up a little bit too. And if you do that, you can grab it and just pull down. You should be able to kind of get a sense here for what it will be. It'll basically be a 3-level facility. It'll be the competition level facility. There will be a level then of club seating on the right or north side of the venue here, and loge seating and suites on the east side. And then on the third layer, there will be more suites and other premium seating. So everything's coming together very nicely on that. So what we're doing right now is we're in the process of making some modifications to the venue that are necessary under NHL requirements. All of these modifications, of course, will be owned by and benefit the university. Some of them are to the ice making equipment. Some of them are to the television capabilities for broadcast purposes. Some are for sports analytics. You've probably all seen on TV, we're on the sideline. Everybody's now looking at a tablet of what just happened on that last play and what the stats are game to date. All of that will be included in the facility, and of course be ours, as well as would be the addition that we're proposing to you here today. So the impact of this financially to the university is that all of the costs of the annex will be paid by the team. They will be paid in advance. The team also will pay us annually in advance for the tenancy in the venue itself. The proposed revisions to the capital development plan, whether it's the things I mentioned about what's happening inside the MPA or the annex that is proposed as a part of this, will not delay the opening of the venue. That will be on schedule, and we'll be enjoying next year's Sun Devil Hockey Division I home schedule in this venue. The same team will oversee the addition, so we think we eliminate any risks there in terms of schedule or contention among contractors, that type of thing, and it will be overseen by the ASU project management team, as has the MPA to date. I would mention also in our agreements, scheduling the ASU needs for which this facility is being built will take precedence. In other words, we'll set our schedule, and then we would work with the Coyotes for their schedule. Typically, an NHL team has an 82 game regular season schedule, 41 of which are played at home, and 41, of course, played around the North American continent on the road. And so that is something that we're prepared to do, working together with them. The license agreement would actually be between the Oakview group, who we've hired to manage this facility, and the team, and it would provide for 3 seasons of Coyotes home games at the MPA, and a possible extension beyond that if necessary, while their larger ultimate home is being built. So they will not practice. The team would not practice in this venue. We want to make sure that it's available for the other purposes for which this was built. So this will be a competition venue only for them. Essentially, this addition will be game day locker rooms for home visiting teams. It will provide training facilities, coaches' offices, and other things that are necessary, for the game day environment for the teams. And then, of course, when the Coyotes are done using it, it would be available to the university, and we believe will be of a significant benefit in terms of being able to attract events that require additional locker room facilities. A perfect example of that might be an NCAA regional ice hockey competition or regional gymnastics events. Remember that our women's gymnastics and men's wrestling teams also will be using this as a competition venue. So I'll just close by noting that ASU retains the naming rights and the vendor sponsorship revenue to the facility, other than game day sponsorships that would go to the Coyotes. So I would summarize by saying that we believe this is both beneficial in terms of the facility enhancements, and financially it will be accretive to our pro forma for the venue itself. So, Madam Chair, with that, I'll stop, and if there are questions that I can address, I'd be happy to do so.
Thank you, Morgan. Are there questions or comments from the board? Regent Herbold?
First, in regard to that visual that we just saw, it looks like some of the fans are going to be very close to the facility, to the action. Do you put big plastic over there so they don't get hit by a puck, right?
Yes, we do. There's something called dasher boards that create the outline of the rink, and those are typically wood or some sort of a composite material, and then plexiglass above that goes about 10 feet out.
Are other arenas that close?
We have tried to make sure that this is going to be a relatively intimate venue. We think that's fantastic, from a game day environment, but there are others that would be similar in that respect. And actually, the experts tell us that actually helps drive revenue. So we're okay with that as well.
Yeah. In regard to the discussions that you and I have had, I really want more information in regard to the specifics of the contract, as well as due diligence that we talked about. So I'm a bit reluctant right now, but from the standpoint of getting those things nailed down, it's an exciting proposition.
Well, thank you, Regent Herbold. We've had a great team working on this. We're comfortable with where we are with our due diligence, which of course we're happy to share with you or any other regent who may be interested.
Thank you. Any other comments? Regent Finley?
Thank you, Chair Manson. I also join Regent Herbold in being really pleased at where we're headed here. I also look forward to seeing the additional detail associated with the contract. And I anticipate, based on what you've told us, we'll be receiving that, and we'll be pleased with the additional detail.
Thank you.
Anything else? Seeing none, I move that the board approve Arizona State University's $134.7 million capital development plan, which includes one resubmitted project, and authorizes ASU to enter into license agreements for the use of the multipurpose arena in excess of 3 years, as described in the executive summary. In addition, ASU will submit the final license agreements to the board's general counsel for review prior to execution. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Any abstentions? The motion does carry. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will now move on to the business of the Academic Affairs and Educational Attainment Committee. Regent Penley, as committee chair, would you please present items 5 and 6?
Thank you very much, Chair Manson. We had a very good meeting of the Academic Affairs and Educational Attainment Committee. We have one item that we'll be bringing forward in a few moments with regard to Northern Arizona University's exemption from a particular policy of the Board of Regents. Let me just comment briefly on the additional items that came before the committee. We specifically focused on metrics during our committee meeting. This board has made an issue of really improving the level of metrics that we have associated with the universities that are a part of the Arizona Board programs. That is Northern Arizona University, Arizona State University, and the University of Arizona. We believe that the metrics that we are working toward completing help to raise the quality of the programs and raise the quality of our universities. Specifically, we focused on online metrics. We are not yet complete with all of our online metrics, and we'll be coming back to that at our March meeting. But we will be among the first states, I believe, to begin to address online issues and metrics associated with our online programs. As all of us know, a growing number of students across the country are engaged in online programs. We have vigorous, successful online programs here in Arizona, and they deserve to have the same kind of metrics to assure a level of quality for those students, just as for the students in our traditional programs. We understand that online students really are very different students. They're working individuals in most cases. They step in and step out of programs based on family needs and work needs. But we look forward to completing those metrics down the road. Arizona State University did present its institutional metrics, and we very much appreciate the quality of those metrics. The University of Arizona did the same. Again, we have two sets of institutional metrics that very much are representative of the very different natures of these two universities. Arizona State University also asked the committee to review a request for a 2-year academic program in military studies to be offered in online mode in partnership with the United States Navy, which the committee forwarded to the full board for its approval in our consent agenda. That 2-year program is subject to the same constraints as the program originally approved by the board in its September meeting. The committee also heard an academic request from Northern Arizona University pertaining to a new program in the NAU organizational unit located here in Arizona. Those items are on the board's consent agenda as well for Northern Arizona University. The committee also discussed first-time student retention. While retention at our 3 universities fell slightly last year, it maintained a level that was substantially above what we've seen across the country during the pandemic. And I'd like to laud and commend our 3 universities for the success they've had in retaining students. This has not been an easy task in the face of the way we've had to alter our delivery of programs and in the reaction of so many citizens in this country, as in other countries, to the pandemic. Nonetheless, despite some slight drop in retention, we did extremely well in improving retention and maintaining levels of retention. Now I'd like to turn to the final item on this presentation, and that is Northern Arizona University's item. Item number 5 is a request from NAU that asks the board to exempt NAU from Abort Policy 2-121C, undergraduate admission core competency requirements, beginning for the fall 2023 entering class through the fall 2028 entering class. President Jose Luis Cruz Rivera and our Provost from Northern Arizona will present this item. President Cruz Rivera.
Thank you, Regent Penley. We have asked our Vice President for Enrollment Management, Annika Olson, to present on behalf of NAU.
Thank you very much. Annika, please proceed.
Thank you, Regent Penley. Today, we are pleased to present a plan to offer more students from the great state of Arizona a path to meeting their full potential. Specifically, we seek an exemption from Abort Policy 2-121 to allow NAU to offer assured admission to highly qualified students in Arizona who meet their high school's graduation requirement with a 3.0 core GPA or higher. Indeed, at NAU, GPA is the top predictor of retention and completion for students. This exemption will broaden participation in post-secondary education and strengthen Arizona's workforce by ensuring that highly qualified, hardworking students have a clear pathway to NAU. By aligning NAU's admissions requirements to the graduation requirements in Arizona and reimagining its student support services, the university is confident in its ability to propel students to graduation and beyond. This proposal is consistent with NAU's Student First mission and makes it crystal clear to students and families that strong performance in high school in the courses required for graduation gives them a clear path to NAU. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Annika. President Cruz Rivera, any additional comments?
We appreciate the board's consideration of this important proposal, which will allow NAU to live up to its mission of access to excellence. And we're very excited about the potential that this has to broaden participation in higher education in Arizona.
Thanks very much, President Cruz Rivera. Before I turn to any questions or comments from members of the board, let me just note that more than 2 decades ago now, this board adopted a proposal that was presented to it for called Changing Directions. It specifically called on the 3 presidents of the universities to differentiate their universities to greater benefit of the state of Arizona. What we're seeing today, in my opinion, is an example of what the board called for 2 decades ago, and that is Northern Arizona universities striking out to really differentiate itself in a way that will increase its responsiveness and overall our public universities' responsiveness to the needs of students in the state of Arizona. Any questions or comments, members of the board?
I'd like to make a comment, and I am very, very encouraged by this. I think this is the first step towards really moving to, NAU's distinctive mission in this state, to providing statewide, geared towards student success and making it distinctive and diversifying our schools from each other. And I think that is a good thing for the state. I think it's a good thing for NAU.
Thank you very much, Chair Manson. I move to approve Northern Arizona University's request to exempt NAU from Abort Policy 2-121C, undergraduate admissions core competencies requirements, beginning for the fall 2023 entering class through the fall 2028 entering class. NAU will work with the board office to develop appropriate reporting associated with this exemption to board policy. Do we have a second?
Second.
We do have a second, Chair Manson. We have a motion and a second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion does carry. So thank you. We are going to take a very brief 10-minute break before we start with the Research and Health Sciences Committee. So we will reconvene at 2:05. Much.
You can tell
All right,
already.
so we are now going to move on to the Research and Health Sciences Committee. And Regent
Come in,
Hall,
miss.
as committee
Come
chair,
in,
would you
miss.
please present items 6 and 7?
With great pleasure, Madam Chair. I am so pleased to give the report of the January 27th meeting of the Research and Health Sciences Committee. Excuse me. We have forwarded to the board the full 3-year TRIF budgets, and we have on the consent agenda the 3-year TRIF plans. And these plans include the additional dollars that have been received on account of the sales tax income increase that we are all celebrating. What I'd like to say about TRIF is a few things. First, and I say this so often, but it bears repeating, TRIF dollars are unique in our system. They are sales tax revenue paid by every Arizonan at the cash register. And TRIF was created to make Arizona more competitive through university research and workforce development. So we are uniquely accountable to taxpayers for how we spend this money. So let me answer the question. How do we accomplish that fiduciary duty to the public? We're learning how to control wildfire. We're learning how to unlock the mysteries of infectious diseases and age-related brain diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. We're exploring Mars. We're hardening American cyber defenses and American national security. We're pioneers in individualized medicine and exploring new forms of renewable energy. Arizona universities are strengthening our country, making our state's economy more competitive, and improving our quality of life. And we're also growing educational attainment and providing Arizona more workforce in critical areas such as nursing, teaching, and science. So what we know is that innovation is the not-so-secret sauce of economic growth in the 21st century. And so what TRIF is about is, one, who will invent the next high-wage economy? Arizona universities. Who will solve the health, energy, national security, and space challenges of our day? Arizona universities. Who can build the economic ecosystem of ideas to capital, capital to startups, and startups to market? Arizona universities. That's what TRIF is about. This is among the most important things that we do, and we're doing it extremely well. And for these plans, the additional $40 million and additional one-time dollars are going to accelerate this impact. In the years ahead, Arizona's economy will be stronger as a result. So I want to thank the presidents and the vice presidents of research for their collaboration and leadership in making this excitement possible and in building the on-ramp for Arizona to the 21st century economy. Madam Chair, our other item is the new Regents Grants Program, which is established to identify collaborative projects with the state of Arizona directly. Ken Pelasco is our lead on this, but he is out of the country, so Chad Sampson is going to present, and we have a special guest, the DEQ Director for the state of Arizona, Director Cabrera, as a part of today's presentation. Chad?
Thank you, Regent Duvall. Very much appreciate that introduction. As Chair Duvall said, Ken Pelasco was intended to present on this. However, he is currently off the coast of the Dominican Republic swimming with whales and said he could not beam into this meeting. So you get me to give a brief introduction, after which I would like to turn the remainder of the time over to the Director of Environmental Quality, Director Cabrera. The Regents asked for this so we could make sure that we are on track to do what the Regents Grants was initially designed to do, which is address key Arizona issues and problems by leveraging Arizona's university system talent. And Director Cabrera will talk specifically about this. How we are accomplishing this is as follows. We collect Arizona's key needs as problem statements. We have worked with the Governor's Office, the Department of Administration, the Department of Environmental Quality, the Department of Water Resources, and the Department of Health Services, collecting these problem statements and knowing what they need, how our talent can best support them. We then revise the problem statements. We have received 4 from the Department of Environmental Quality, 4 from the Department of Water Resources, and 1 as a joint problem statement from the Department of Environmental Quality and the Department of Health. So far, we've had 1 question and answer session in January with ADEQ. We expect further questions and answer sessions between the agency heads and agency leads, our vice presidents for research, and the faculty for the Department of Water Resources in the next couple of weeks, and with the Department of Health. So having given that update, these are the problem statements. I am going to skip this in the interest of time to allow Mr. Cabrera more time to talk to the board. But I do want to address that the next steps is, in my words, fund in February. We'd like to thank the vice presidents for research for being flexible as we've gotten this program off the ground. There have been lots of questions. We are merging 2 cultures, that of the state, that of the universities, to attack these issues. I want to thank Regent Duvall and the other regents who have led on this issue. And our goal is to have these problem statements, proposals for these problem statements come in on Monday, February 14th, and to fund them in February and be back at a special ad hoc meeting of the Research and Health Science Committee to fund them as soon as possible. If there are no I'm happy to answer any questions. If there are no questions, I will turn this over again to the director, but talk to the board a little bit about what's it like to be on the state side of this equation.
Any questions or comments from the board? Director Cabrera, welcome.
Thank you, Chair Manson and members of the board. As stated, my name is Misael Cabrera, and I'm privileged to serve as the Director of the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality. Hi, John. Leonardo da Vinci famously said, "I have been impressed with the urgency of doing. Knowing is not enough. We must apply. Being willing is not enough. We must do." And it is this self-evident and deep truth that runs through the heart of the Regents Grants program. Knowing is not enough. We must apply. Combining the practical problem solving of state agencies and the robust research resources of the state universities in my opinion, is no less than brilliant. It is brilliant because it couples the practical with the possible. It is brilliant because it acts on the necessity that we leave our silos and reminds us that policy is often best informed through rigorous research and applied science. It is brilliant because it integrates cross-functional human capital with research and technology to solve some of our most pressing problems. And our most pressing problems include water supply, air quality, groundwater quality, and surface water quality. The Lakota phrase, "water is life," is particularly salient in the today, and the converse of that statement is of grave concern to our state. While I leave it to my esteemed colleague at the Department of Water Resources to answer any specific questions about water supply problems, the fact of the matter is that in some areas of our state, we lack fundamental data and groundwater models to make optimal policy recommendations. Our air quality problems include ozone non-attainment. Ozone threatens human health on a daily basis. The Stockholm Institute estimates that roughly 50,000 premature deaths occur in North America every year as a result of ozone. Ozone is a colorless, odorless gas that makes lungs more susceptible to infection and aggravates lung diseases such as asthma, emphysema, and chronic bronchitis. Ozone also threatens the economic health of Yuma County, Maricopa County, and Pima County due to automatic regulatory triggers that add increasing cost to decreasingly important sources of ozone precursors. Given that the most important variables for ozone exceedances are regional concentrations and meteorology, we need to better understand the independent and reasonably controllable variables influencing ozone exceedances in Arizona. Water supply, soil erosion, and air quality all come into play for problems like fallow fields, especially in arid central Arizona. Fallow fields are a growing air quality issue for particulate matter of 10 microns or less, also known as dust. And the challenge is aggravated by increasing water restrictions in Pinal County. West Pinal County is already in serious non-attainment for dust, and government at different levels has competing programs in addressing fallow fields. One government agency will incentivize farmers with crop insurance and tax incentives to break up the soil crust for weed abatement. Another government agency will limit access to water. Yet another government agency, ADQ, will try to limit dust emissions from those very same fields. Arizona would benefit from a fallow field toolkit that limits windblown dust and preserves incentives available to farmers. Water supply and groundwater quality are the areas most affected by a family of anthropogenically designed chemicals known as PFAS that are especially well suited for firefighting. Unfortunately, one drop of PFAS can contaminate 18 million gallons of groundwater above a health advisory level. Arizona needs cost-effective solutions to remediate large groundwater plumes and a viable replacement for aqueous film-forming foam that contains PFAS. These are just a sampling of the problems that can be addressed by the Regents Grants Program, and I applaud you for this innovation to grant fund applied problem solving with the state. I applaud you for realizing that serving the citizens of Arizona includes application, not just information. And I applaud you for including state of Arizona agencies. I firmly believe that together, the only problems we can't make a difference on is the problems we don't know about. With that, I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Appreciate very much the agency's robust response to this opportunity, the fact that we've crafted this first, what we are calling a draft test case as to whether or not this approach as a collaborative spirit with the state can produce some solutions to challenges of the agencies, and really appreciate your comments. Are there questions or comments from members of the board? I guess let me ask one, and either of you, Chad or Mr. Director, either one of you. There were other idea proposals that were not selected because we wanted to select the one as our trial. Can you give us a flavor of some of the other things that were considered, so that as we think about whether or not this is something which we can grow and replicate, what kinds of things we might be considering?
Speak for your agency, and then I can follow up with some of the others.
Which one?
No, there are multiple. There are things that got left.
Oh, I got you. Chair Manson, Mr. Duval, in terms of the environment, there is no lack of problems. What we did is we prioritized the problems that we felt, one, that we needed a more robust, research-oriented effort to find viable solutions for, and two, that we'd been trying to solve for some time and not had a lot of success. Some success, but not a lot of success. We have problems all across the state in terms of air quality, groundwater quality, surface water quality. We have over 100 impaired surface waters, for example. Many of them are impaired not just because some are in the vicinity of abandoned mine sites, but some of them are impaired because of natural wildlife and conditions. So there's storm flow hits wildlife droppings, those droppings get into the surface waters, and then the surface waters become impaired for things like E. coli, which can be very bad for you. So what we did is we prioritized the problems that we thought would most benefit from an Arizona-specific research. Of course, there's other problems like climate change, which is a global problem. We did not offer at DEQ climate change, for example, because there's a little known fact that the state of Arizona, through market forces, has actually reduced carbon dioxide emissions over the last 10 years more than California, Oregon, and Washington combined. So climate change is a global problem. The state of Arizona is already a leader through market forces in carbon dioxide reductions. And so we did not address that, even though it's a clear, large global problem.
Thank you for those comments. Chad, you want to add anything to it?
Chair, I would. Mine are a little more practical, just as managing it. So, for example, ADEQ has been an outstanding partner, but I'd like to turn to the Department of Water Resources, which are, again, working closely with Ken moving forward. A couple of the problems that we're looking at right now is modeling, human needs modeling of its groundwater. And so that's an example of where we're headed, because it just so happens we have some of the best water programs in the entire world. Additional programs, one that's we are looking for future is some of the forestry, some of the fire retardant, because in this first year, in an effort to get the money into the university hands working on these programs, we were very judicious in what we selected. So 4 from ADEQ, 4 from the Department of Water, again, around modeling and others, and 1 with the Department of Health, because they came to us and said, hey, you're doing dust remediation. We'd really like to partner with you on valley fever. That's a problem that affects Arizonans. Can you work with your universities to try and figure out how to move that forward? So those are kind of the pantheon of programs that we're moving forward in this first year.
Terrific. Very helpful. Thank you. Other comments, questions from board members? Yes, Regional Rettenauer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know who to address this to, but Chad or so there are probably lots of groups working on the same problem. So how do you bring everybody together under an umbrella, for instance, and make sure that you consulted all the groups that have stakeholders in, for instance, groundwater? I mean, you've got numerous stakeholders. You've got the farmers, the Indian tribes. So how do you bring all this together in crafting a program?
Chair Manson and Duvall, Regent Reiner, that's an excellent question. I'm not sure external stakeholders, how that will go about that. But what we really wanted to do is have very specific, narrow problem statements, and then work with the universities to bring their talent, their resources to bear. And so once they have, and again, we've issued the problem statements, the VPRs have been very flexible and cannot overstate their leadership in this, in trying to bring the university faculty talent to bear on this. Then they will try and make proposals. Part of those proposals may be to engage with the external stakeholder groups, but again, we are looking at specific research solutions to the very specific problem being asked. I'm not sure that answered your questions completely.
Thank you. Professor Ellis.
The listening sessions that you had, do you know how the universities determined what faculty were sitting at the table to hear these, to be part of that discussion?
Chair Duvall, Professor Ellis, to be honest, I do not know that. I can get that to you. I know that the VPRs were involved very much so.
The discussion amongst the Arizona Faculty's Council was simply a concern about the equitable distribution of opportunity amongst all three universities, and then amongst the breadth of faculty who might be able to contribute. So that would be just something to keep under consideration as you proceed.
Professor Ellis, that is something I think all the VPRs have advocated with our office to make sure we understand that, and we will continue to work with them. I don't have an answer how that's going to move forward, as this is not fully baked.
Right.
But we will, obviously that is front of mind of everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, first go around, we're learning a lot. Thank you. Regent Schumann.
Regent Duvall, thank you. Let's assume you get an outstanding report, which I'm sure you will, from our university teams that give you the research that they've come up with. Now you have this research. How do you translate that research as a department of our Arizona government into a action to actually address the issue?
Chair Manson, Regent Schumann, our process at DEQ for implementing anything is a stakeholder-heavy process. That process is multifaceted. For example, we have a monthly business and community roundtable. We just had one today, where we talk to stakeholders about what we're up to, the kinds of things that we're doing. We're waiting just a little bit on some final decisions by the Board of Regents before we announce this to our stakeholders. But that is one fashion that we start engaging with stakeholders. The second fashion is if we have a specific solution, as you mentioned, that we want to implement, we bring a group of stakeholders together that are representative of all interests across the state, non-governmental organizations, affected communities, business interests that are affected by that particular solution. We share the research with them, and then together we develop policy ideas that we can then recommend to the governor's office.
It'll be interesting to see whether that research requires a company or a provider to be able to take the knowledge that's been discovered and translate it into a product or a service that can actually address it. So this will be a fascinating time to see how all of that works out. It's an exciting opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent. Other comments or questions before we close? Chad, again, thank you for all the hard work for you and Ken out on the Blue Ocean. And Director Cabrera, thank you very much for coming and for your partnership. We're excited about what lies ahead. Hope this is a great success so that we can address future challenges facing the state going forward.
Thank you.
Appreciate you both. Madam Chair, this is just a discussion item and concludes our meeting.
Thank you. I'm actually going to make one comment before you all leave. I'd like to thank Regent Duvall for, suggesting to the board that this kind of opportunity between, funds provided from the Arizona taxpayers, the universities and government organizations could actually benefit Arizona. This has happened very quickly in the scheme of legislative and university actions. And I want to thank the universities, the government agencies, and Abort staff for really working to cooperate and to find actionable solutions for all of Arizona. I think this is nothing but tremendous potential for all the stakeholders involved. So thank you. Yes, Regent Penley.
Thank you, Chair Manson. I just would also like to recognize your department, the Department of Environmental Quality. I've met with your staff multiple times. I've been taken carefully through the board that you all keep inside the front door. I'm just enormously impressed, not only with the number of projects that we have to deal with, but with the approach that you all take in the department to carefully deal with those, to monitor progress in just an exceptionally well done way. So with thanks to you and your staff for the approach that you take to deal with the myriad of problems that any state has these days with environmental issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
Our next item is to focus on ASU. And President Crow and his team are going to provide the fiscal year 2022 state of the ASU Enterprise and ASU University. So I see. Nope, we had our break.
This is a 27-hour presentation.
You're going to have to cut it down to 23.
Thank you.
We need to reposition the room.
Well, there's screens in front of everyone, or people may want to turn around. I'm going to speak from over here. So, yeah. Thank you. Is the microphone on? Thank you, Regent Manson. And for new regents, this is the annual presentation, basically, of the status of ASU. Where are we? Where are we headed? Where have we been? What have we achieved? What haven't we achieved? I've got the 5 executive vice presidents of the university sitting here, who you have all met except Chris. So Nancy Gonzalez, who's executive vice president and chief of the ASU Academic Enterprise, and I'm using my words very, very precisely here. Chris Howard, who's the new COO of the ASU Enterprise, the super enterprise, who just joined us on Monday. He just left his job as president of Robert Morris University, and you all know about him because I've spoken about him several other times. And I'll come back to Chris in just a second. Sally Morton, who you've been interacting with, executive vice president and chief of the ASU Knowledge Enterprise. Morgan Olson, who you've heard from many times already today in both executive session and open session, executive vice president and chief financial officer of both the enterprise and the university. And Maria Anguiano, who is executive vice president and chief of the ASU Learning Enterprise. The board, everyone's recognizable to the board except Chris. Chris, would you like to just give your greetings?
I sure will. Very grateful to be here, and not just because I'm leaving Pittsburgh, where it is -3.
I think people should take their masks off when they're speaking.
Okay.
So, when you're speaking, yeah.
So not just because I'm leaving Pittsburgh, but because I'm coming here. And I left an institution I ran for 6 years, Robert Morris University, and one before that, Hampton-Sydney College, that were really interested in outcomes and thinking big. And it's great to come to a place where that comes to fruition. I'm honored to be working with President Crow and my colleagues here and behind in the whole Forks Up Sun Devil Nation. So thank you very much.
And thank you, Chris. And then in the second row back here are the additional members of the university's executive committee. I won't go through all of them, but they know that I may harass them and pick on them. And then there are additional officers of the university, including our Dean of Engineering and others that are here also, as I see several members of the University Senate back there also. So it's nice to see so many faces from ASU. So particularly for regents that haven't been here before, they've cut this presentation back from 3 hours to 2 hours. And so, and if that's not a message to me, I don't know what is a message to me. And so when you see that there are more than 100 slides, which you don't see because we haven't given you the handout yet, just for that reason. We're not going to spend a lot of time on all of the slides. We won't spend any time on some of them, but you are going to get a hard copy of everything that's presented. So very, very importantly is the verbiage on this slide. the state of the ASU public enterprise. And I'm going to walk you through what this means, and Arizona State University, which is the functional outcome of this enterprise. The public enterprise is our modus operandi. It's our way of operating, not a public agency, not a public bureaucracy, but a public enterprise in how we operate. And what we mean by that is that we are operating in a way that we're attempting as rapidly as possible in real time to evolve the way in which we work, but the way in which public organizations work. In fact, we've even argued in the case of Arizona, there probably could be some additional transformation in an evolutionary sense of the way that public functions are performed. The public agency model is not always the best model. There are other models that public objectives can be pursued by. The Salt River Project is a public enterprise, by the way, that's been amazingly successful for over 100 years, designed over 100 years ago as a public water utility that grew to become many other things and is governed by a very unique set of ways in which it's governed. And so Arizona has had three types of public enterprise organizations in its history. Each of them in the three phases have then produced certain kinds of certain types of societal outcomes from the time of statehood until the present moment. And I'm using this just very rapidly as a logical construct for why we're doing the public enterprise modality. I did publish with a colleague this year also a book with Professor Barry Bozeman on the design of public value institutions that I may have sent to some of you. And it's an example of the way in which public enterprises can perform certain high value public value achievements. And so from statehood to the mid-1900s, Arizona's economy was largely based on natural resources. The extraction of minerals, the extraction of agricultural products, the delivery of water. All of the public entities in Arizona were designed to facilitate this. Water projects, water transfer projects, the way that certain organizations were put up, the way that certain things were designed. And so look at the scale of this mine in Globe in Miami, Arizona, in 100 years ago. I mean, it's just this unbelievable thing. And so the scale of the institutions in Arizona were designed to help make this work. From the 1950s until now, the public entities in Arizona were designed to minimize costs, to be as basically as bare bones as you could possibly imagine, so that they could attract an economy built on people moving here. Fantastic and fantastically successful, unbelievably successful. I'm not quite sure exactly what that is, but I know that's Sun City from the 1970s, but nonetheless, a lot of people came and everything was designed to work that way. So the public entity designs in Arizona, and I'm arguing that the public entity designs need to be updated as we think that we've updated ourselves. They influence lots of things. They influence economic success. They influence social outcomes. They influence population growth. Look at the population growth under the low cost design. So the public agencies in Arizona, and one of my arguments about the design of institutions in Arizona is that if we had been able to update some of them a little bit more quickly, we might be able to take more advantage of some of the economy that lies ahead. Now, basically, here's what's happened in the time frame. If you look at per capita resources, per capita GDP over time, it's not the best picture. Now, it worked both times, and now we've evolved, and it's not something that is growth, population growth without simultaneous economic growth beyond population growth doesn't create for the greatest, most equitable set of economic outcomes. This picture is not a fake picture. This is a drawing of the Blue Origin orbital reef that will be going up into space shortly as a commercial site for the expansion of the economy. This is not a space station run by the government. This is a space station funded by a private company, with private companies being engaged. Well, we're the selected partner. We're the lead university for the orbital reef. And so just as an example, I won't walk you through all of the complexities of what it takes to become the partner for the orbital reef and what it takes to then be involved in different kinds of knowledge-driven enterprises and so forth and so on. But we believe that we, ASU, we're not the only one, nor should we be the only one, but we have evolved this public enterprise model. Now, I've used these phrases in earlier slides, but this is a really, really important thing. So the animating purpose of this public enterprise is social transformation and economic success. not the production of future lawyers that go to law school. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's not our purpose. The path to achieving it is connecting what we call instruction to knowledge generation, changing the modality of the institution, the organizational scale, social scale. Social scale. Can you educate? Can you reach out to everyone? So Maria's assignment in designing, leading, and launching the learning enterprise is to see if we can reach out literally with what we already have, not diminishing what we have in their use for anyone else. Can we have the university be a broader public good? So Maria, just on that category there, that bottom category, social scale with possible national and global reach, just give one project that you're working on in learning enterprise.
Well, I'll give one example of a current asset that we already have. Ask Biologist started in late 90s. That's been growing and growing. And so we're working right now on figuring out how to get that content, which is been engaging millions of learners.
Hundreds of millions.
In K through 12, their teachers, their parents, grandparents, and figuring out how to get that out to many more schools, many more learners, both nationally and globally. So that's just one example of an asset we already had. And it goes back to, let's take the current assets that we have and figure out how to expand them. And then we have a lot of examples, I'm sure later, of new assets we're creating, but that's one current one that we're focused on.
So this notion here, and this has been in the design of the institution from the moment of the beginning of the design of ASU as this kind of new American university, and that is the notion of the faculty being empowered to be knowledge entrepreneurs. So yeah, they're doing their thing and they're working on things and they're developing things, but they're not only working in a narrow band. Our faculty are teaching online, they're teaching on campus, they're doing public service, they're doing research, they're doing all of these things, and we work to empower them to be able to do that. And so again, I'm not going to go through in detail everything, but you're getting the sense of the gist of the logic of the design itself. So what we're trying to do today is to review the progress that we're making as a public enterprise for this future economy of Arizona, this future social set of outcomes for Arizona. We have an unbelievably diverse population. We have a population that's come in from all over the world. We have a population that's made up of hundreds of thousands of refugees from other countries that are resettled here by the United States government here in Arizona and metropolitan Phoenix. It's a big, complicated kind of place. And the standard issue, grandma or grandpa's university that runs with some dollars from the state and some dollars for tuition, and you run a few courses and you produce a few graduates, that's not what we need this institution to be. Our charter, I won't spend time reviewing it. It is the central objective of the institution. It is the aspirational identity of the institution. Regents should be aware that if future regents want to blow this charter up, they will actually have to go to these things made of stone and steel and blast those things out of there. And I would suggest that that would possibly attract some attention, particularly given the words that are on the page. So when you think about ASU as a public enterprise, these are the kinds of phrases, concepts, ideas that differentiate us. National service, learning enterprise, new economy, new American university, fifth wave university, entrepreneurial. These are the things that we talk about. These are the kinds of things that we work toward. So I'm going to pick on Maria again. What is a universal learner? This word right here, universal learning. What is a universal learner course?
Well, we have a universal learner course, which are open access courses that we've developed that are college credit. So any learner that wants to take the course can take the course. In fact, they can try to take it at no cost unless they want to then get credit and move into to ASU as a student. But the idea was to create yet more mechanisms by which to access ASU degree pathways.
So do we have universal learner courses available?
We do. We have 11,000 learners in them right now.
I'm just trying to give you a sense of how things are moving forward. So the charter in detail, which you've all read, and we're going to leave you with a little memento, which is every year for 19 years, we have produced a new updated vision and goal statement, which integrates the Regents' goals into our goals, into our vision, and into this charter. And so the charter very simply is measurement of success about the institution based on inclusion versus exclusion, measurement of success of our research for advancing the public value and then taking responsibility for the communities that we serve. So one of the things, the critique of universities, public universities, is very serious and very significant. The abandonment of the support of public universities by public bodies that used to fund them, it's not like an accident. It's a political outcome. It seems to be a narrow good, available and valuable to a limited number of people. Okay, well, those people can pay for it in a lot of cases. Well, we're trying to make certain that we take responsibility for broader outcomes. And so I'm definitely not going to spend a lot of time on this. You've seen this every year, but it is updated very subtly every year. These are our 4 categories. If the charter is who we aspire to be, these goals are what we want to do specifically towards that aspiration. So first, demonstrate leadership in enabling academic excellence and accessibility at scale. The at scale thing is really, really important. Look at in the third bullet, the projected or the desired retention rate, the number of graduations and the graduation rate, and the number of students that will be attending in our online degree programs, online degree granting programs, 140,000. This is everything that we do will be of high quality, or why do it? Everything we do will be of high quality, or why do it? Why do it? There's a new phrase in here. So Sally, what is the new word that I underlined for you? So what is it? What is this? And what is that underlined word?
So it used to say become a leading American center. Now it says the leading American center. So no pressure, but an aspirational but achievable goal.
Yes, it is achievable. According to the National Science Foundation in 2020, 2 years ago, we were already the #1 research spender in transdisciplinary or interdisciplinary work, but this isn't what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is this will be our hallmark. This differentiates us from U of A. It differentiates us from NAU. It is the position that we're moving toward. And then, Sally, that second bullet, blue item there, what is that?
Right, so this is the goal of achieving more than $1 billion in research expenditures as defined by the National Science Foundation. We are most recently at 673 in fiscal year 20, which is the latest year that the NSF reported the results.
So that sounds a lot like 67.3% of the way towards the goal.
That's
that
about
data
it.
That data is 2 years old.
Right, right.
So on last Wednesday morning, I had a little meeting with Raphael Reif, president of MIT, in the president's mansion on the campus of MIT, 111 Memorial Drive. So I drove my little rental car over there. The snow drifts everywhere. I said, Raphael, we're coming for you, dude. He says, I know. And so this on local impact and social embeddedness, this just is basically this notion that we have to be of the greatest possible value to the broadest spectrum of the people in the society, not just the people that come to the institution, as you've already heard Maria talking about. So what is the ASU public enterprise? You've seen this slide before as Regents. I'm not going to cover it again. The 3 enterprises led by the 3 executive vice presidents, the enterprise support units. I'm not going to walk you through this, drawing from and contributing to the faculty in the colleges and the schools. What does that mean looking at something like this? And apologize for that, my words being typed up by some kind of robot there at the bottom. But the academic enterprise then is comparable to Penn State, to Texas A&M, to Purdue, or to UCLA. The academic enterprise has as many degree-seeking students as the Texas A&M system, as many degree-seeking students as the Penn State system, more than Purdue, more than UCLA. The knowledge enterprise, Battelle, which you can see in the bottom left of the slide, is an unbelievable mammoth entity in Columbus, Ohio, that is an unbelievable research enterprise. There's nothing like it in Arizona. We don't have the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which you could see under that, which is run by Caltech. We don't have other kinds of laboratories like the RAND Corporation, which has 3 or 4 FFRDCs inside it. So one of Sally's additional assignments, in addition to helping our faculty to be better, more integrated, more interdisciplinary, more enabled, more empowered researchers, like you saw from the Regents professors that got the awards last night, as many of those as we can possibly produce, how do we grow for Arizona the equivalent of a RAND, the equivalent of a Battelle, or the equivalent of a JPL? Human species at the American level, altering institutions, none of which exist in Arizona. And one of Sally's assignments is to, and we have some seedlings for these things, our Global Futures Laboratory, our Interplanetary Initiative, which could grow into a laboratory. And then we just sent a spy over to JPL. So one of our former faculty members and an ASU undergraduate just became the director of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Lori Leshin. It's a fantastic, fantastic appointment. Oh, and then these other that I listed under Learning Enterprise, Udacity, edX, Emeritus, Coursera. These are complex for-profit entities that believe that they're pursuing the same objectives. They're pursuing similar objectives, but from a different base. In our base, we're pursuing these objectives with our faculty, with our team, with our staff. Now, this is what Jim O'Brien and I spend our time thinking about. So don't get too much into it. So Jim O'Brien, explain this slide. Jim O'Brien, Senior Vice President of the University for University Affairs and Chief of Staff at the university. And he's had to put up with me for how long? 37 years?
Yeah, it is like 37 years. Actually 37 years. Yes. So I think the simplest explanation of this slide as we think about this term ASU Public Enterprise is really, we're trying to illustrate the complexity and the opportunity of ASU, but this is true of other public institutions as well, that as we grow and expand the institution to scale higher education, there's the university, and then there's everything around it. And this is just an expression of that the public enterprise, we need to think about the university not only in terms of its core, but we need to think of it in terms of all that exists around it. And at ASU these days, we have ASU Enterprise Partners that you're all familiar with, and there are 5 subsidiaries to ASU Enterprise Partners. We have a number of...
For instance, let's say ASU Enterprise Partners, which Dan Dillon is the CEO of, and he's, wave your hand, Dan. But this is the ASU Foundation right here. Just that's a massive, unbelievably successful. Dan is really, and Gretchen Bulig and the team have just really taken off. So that little green circle is the ASU Foundation.
And so then we also have now for-profit companies affiliated with the institution in which...
I'll be Vanna White here.
In which we hold through enterprise partners and equity interest in those companies. What that represents is the ability of the institution to take private capital and put it to work for the benefit of the public and for purposes of scaling higher education.
That last sentence that Jim, just say that again, to take private capital and put it to work for the benefit of the public.
And so one of the sources of capital, for example, is a social impact fund run by Texas Pacific Group. So we're finding new mechanisms, new ways.
The startup investor in this company here, InStride.
And so we're finding new ways to scale higher education and new ways to carry out the mission, the charter that you saw earlier. And so those 3 entities are examples of that. We also have ASU Prep. So as the university,
which Dr. Jim Rund, working with Maria and his team, grew that thing, nurtured that thing, and have evolved that into one of the most important digital and physical assets related to K-12 education in the country.
And so
Jim, wave your hand.
And so as the university now enters K-12 education as a means of demonstrating through the work of our faculty and our teachers college in charter schools, how it is that we can advance education in Arizona and demonstrate to other school systems and other schools. That is a mechanism for doing so. Now, it's also a mechanism of taking the assets through the learning enterprise then that might be used in the K-12 environment and pushing them out to a broader and broader audience. So in the ASU public enterprise, we now have K-12 education associated with what historically has been thought of as the university.
Well, how many students do we have taking college? You talk about dual enrollment. So how many kids do we have taking dual enrollment type courses, either Maria or Jim?
A couple thousand.
Low thousands. And that can be greatly expanded where we're using the highly engineered online capabilities that we have to help high school students to get direct access to the university. So I just want to just add what Jim said. So the most important thing on the slide, believe it or not, is the center, knowledge. That is what's driving us. That's what our faculty add to. That's what our faculty devise new theories about. That's what our faculty really focus on. And then we show we have the knowledge enterprise and the academic enterprise drawing from that knowledge core, which is where our faculty sit, where our assets sit. And all the rest of this comes from that. I won't spend much more time on this, other than this is obviously a work in progress. But I will say that this little thing here We've never shown you this before in this kind of configuration because it took us a while to get the compass and the protractor to work. And so this is the three of us, myself, Morgan, and Chris, who have an assignment to help make this all work. This is not a lead thing. This is not a thing where you've got, soldiers going into battle or football players going into the game. I mean, this is something that requires a whole set of managerial expertise to be able to move this thing forward in a new kind of way. It's a different kind of management structure. So here's who the what we call working group matrix. These are the EVPs. And I want to be clear with the regents that Nancy, Sally, and Maria are the leaders of the institution in their enterprise that they're leading. So Nancy is the leader of the institution as the academic enterprise. Sally is the leader of the institution as the knowledge enterprise, and Maria is the leader of the institution as the learning enterprise. And I'll ask someone randomly. I'll ask Chris, what do you think that means?
Well, as a former football player and a former military person, I took offense to that analogy. I don't know, he's looking at me and winking at me, but I get it, boss. Military parlance, you have division commanders, combatant commanders who fight the fight. Central Command, European Command, etc. The wonderful women on my left and right are the people that are leading the troops in the battle through the enterprise that you described. Morgan is providing resources financially with this organization. I'm providing something TBD around brain power, managerial acumen, but I'm in military parlance, General, more like the 3 and the 5. The ops officer, not a deputy COO who people report through me to Michael, to the president, but rather a staff officer in the current operations, and also in plans and policy, working with people like Christian to support the main battle effort.
Christian Osminia, Vice President for Strategy and Planning back there, you can wave. We've dealt with Christian before. So. Okay, thank you, Chris. So we've also been hiring great deans, and so what have you been doing, Nancy? Who are these people? You don't have to go through all of them in detail, but just we're hiring great deans, hiring great faculty, bringing in great people. I just want the regents to know as a part of our report, and then all of this has occurred during the pandemic. You're not hearing anything, these hiring, these recruitments, everything that you're seeing, the new launches, the new initiatives, the new design, the hiring of Chris. Nancy.
Okay, fantastic deans, in fact. And we actually have been doing a fantastic job of really building our own leaders from within. And so we've got 3 examples. Kenro Kasumi is now Dean of Natural Sciences in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. Previous to this role, he was director of our largest school at ASU, the School of Life Sciences.
And in that, he embraced and led the faculty, and the faculty led him to now double the size of the number of majors and improve the quality of the program and the expansion of the research. So it's unbelievable what he was able to do in that role.
7,000 majors in that school. Cynthia Leitz stepped in to serve as the the Dean of Watts College of Public Service and Community Solutions. Cynthia is a distinguished scholar, but also was Vice Dean of Watts College, and she has seen the evolution of this college to where now 3 out of 4 of the schools in this college are within the top 25 ranked across the country. Joanna Grabsky moved into the Dean of College of Integrative Sciences and Art. Prior to this role, she was director of the School of Art in Herberger Institute of Design and the Arts, led a transformational effort in that
Went
school.
through the leadership, I think she went through the leadership program at the institution, was able to leap into a new area. So back to one of the Regents' concerns about the development of leaders and leadership and so forth, we're growing our own leaders also.
Yeah, so those are our 3 internal hires, and then 2 external hires. Batinto Bat started in July as the Dean of the Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communications, brings a wealth of experience as a distinguished journalist himself. Prior to this, he was at
Scripps Howard.
Scripps Howard, thank you. Scripps Howard Foundation, leading journalism strategies for Scripps, and is setting to take our highly ranked School of Journalism and make it a national school, taking advantage of our location in Washington,
National
DC.
school doesn't mean nationally ranked, it means nationally operating in multiple locations.
Exactly.
Los Angeles, Washington, Phoenix, other places.
Exactly. And then our newest hire, Ohad Kandan, will start July 1, although he's already in transition, and I think he's somewhere on a Zoom even with us today. He is coming from the Olin School of Business from Washington.
I see Ohad, wave your hands, buddy.
Is he on there?
I see, there he is.
He's coming from Washington University St. Louis, where he was Vice Dean for Education and Globalization and the H. Frederick Hageman Jr. Professor of Finance. He comes with a very distinguished record as a professor of finance, and we're excited to have him join us.
So we've also been hiring great faculty, but I just want to reemphasize once again, and this is really important to us. Our faculty teach all of our courses. Our faculty are behind what we put our name on. Our faculty are the core of, of what we call the knowledge core. We've been hiring new faculty, Natalie Diaz, Marianne Feldman. These faculty members, just take a look at them. I won't walk through them. You might note that Natalie won a MacArthur Fellowship and a Pulitzer Prize after her appointment at ASU as a fantastic poet. And her poetry is among the most normatively instructive guidance about how one can move a multicultural society into the future that I've ever read. I mean, she's just a powerful thinker. And then other new faculty that we've hired, including Cheryl Boone Isaacs as the new founding director of the Sidney Poitier School, based in Los Angeles and here. And then Mitchell Jackson, who we hired from the University of Chicago, who also won a Pulitzer Prize this past summer. So these are tremendous faculty members. Allison, we hired Susan Goldberg, who's the outgoing editor of the National Geographic magazine. And then Allison has been here for a while. These three we hired. This one, we raised some money from one of our most significant donors, the Leo and Annette Buse family. So another $8 million. And we then created a chair for Allison, or a professorship for Allison, and a chair for another faculty member. So they can go out and find how do planets form, where are habitable planets, where do they locate, where did the first stars come together, how do we measure the light from the first stars, just really tremendous things that have been going on during all of this. So how are we doing? I'm not going to walk through any of these other than if you get as sick as I do of the people that say to me, isn't that big party school out there? And I say, no, that's the other one. No, I say, yes, that used to be us. That's what I say. That used to be us. But let me send you these tiles here that will help you to not ask such silly questions again. So these are different achievements, and we're not going to walk through them. Regents will want to take a close look at these. And then students, as we know from Regent Dave, who just won the Best Student Award in the school for the Future of Innovation in Society, and whose team won the International Mask X Prize with a cash prize that came in, and so forth and so on. These are just some of the fantastic, unbelievable students that we have. I mean, and we can't even put all this stuff up. I just want Regents to know that our faculty care for, nurture, and develop some of the greatest students that are operating and advancing and being educated at any university in the world, period. And because we're so huge, more of them than all of those other places, because they're not very huge. And so we have a lot of this going on. So academic enterprise, I wanted to point out the date of this. This picture was taken in December of 2021. So when people say, you've really been knocked down by the pandemic, you're just barely able to do anything, just barely having anything. I mean, our faculty were present, our students were present, the families are present, the faculty are working, the staff is working, the institution is active. The pandemic, for all of its complexities, of which there are many, has actually, I think, enhanced the institution's innovation, enhanced the institution's competitiveness, enhanced our position. Dan Dillon, who's the head of Enterprise Partners, how do you think we've been enhanced during the pandemic?
Well, I think we've definitely become more resilient as an organization and able to tackle problems that maybe we wouldn't have even considered previously because of that confidence that we've gained. I think we've learned new ways of doing things that will forever change how we educate and how we cooperate and communicate. I think this has given us an opportunity to try things that we wouldn't have tried and collectively learned while we were doing them all together.
And Dan is the CEO of Enterprise Partners. And then Joanne Vogel, who's our Vice President for Student Affairs. Joanne, how about our students? What's the resiliency of our students? How have we done? I mean, have we been completely shut down and unable to make any progress?
No, and I think in
You should-
fact,
with your-
oh yeah, let's do this. When you talk about how has the pandemic or how has COVID changed up how we do things, I mean, our students are hungry for time around us, time with us. They have loved being here. 15,000 living on campus here with us. It's also,
Which means 60,000 not living on campus with us, by the way. So.
Yeah. And we have used, I think, technology to our advantage to be able to bring people in who otherwise may not have been able to participate in events. In organization is we've really looked at how can we then include them in ways that previously we might not have thought to do.
So this is a goofy chart here. Thank you, Joanne. This is a goofy chart. You don't want all the details. So this is a data analytic chart, a new classification system that's identified 13 distinct organizational designs of U.S. universities. We're that big yellow ball there in the middle. The scale of the size of the ball is the size of the institution. You can see Pell, you can see that there's a correlation between number of Pell students and your 6-year graduation rate. Geniuses have finally figured this out. These things are correlated. So if you got a lot of kids from lower income families, guess what? You got schools over there, tiny little schools graduating 10%, 20%, 30%. We're in the gold group. You might note that we have a lot more Pell students than all but 2 of them. And the others do better than us in this notion of their 6-year graduation rate. Well, we're going to fix that. And so we're going to start moving to the left side of this slide. That's really all you need to know. That's all the universities in the whole country that give a bachelor's degree. All of them. So these are the ones that are in our group, including the University of Arizona. So they meet a set of data constraints, that is a certain size, a certain number of Pell eligible students, a certain orientation of the institution. Some are public, some are private. You can see who they are. We've picked some shaded in gray that are kind of interesting because they're similar to us in different kinds of ways. We're taking, if there's a maroon color here, we've got a kid from a high school in that location. I'm going to come back to some of Regent Duval's concerns in the last time we made this presentation of how we're doing relative to Arizona. And again, don't study the data. I'm going to try to give you the trends of the data. You're going to see where we're going. So we're getting kids from a lot of high schools. We're going to try to get kids from more high schools. We are taking 12% of all the high school graduates in Arizona that go to college after their senior year come to ASU. 12%. That is a massive number. And it's up. In 2012, less than 10%, now 12% are coming to ASU. Undergraduate enrollment, highest ever. And we'll come back to that maroon, which are the resident students. Now, because the scale is so large, you can't see this. This is Arizona undergraduates. So Arizona undergraduates from 32,000 now to 51,827 since we started this transformation process. That's the building of an entire additional university of Arizona-only students, of 20,000 additional students. And then you can see where we're going by the shaded to the right. Now, this is just to compare with those comparators that we have. The detail of the comparators in the gray is nothing other than look at what we're trying to do. Look at how we're trying to evolve. Penn State is right there next to us, University of Central Florida. I'm having lunch in a few days with Alexander Cartwright, the president of University of Central Florida in Orlando. So we work together, we're associating with them and working with them. But I just want you to see sort of where we are. Graduate enrollment, remember all I've been showing you up to this point is undergraduate enrollment. This is graduate enrollment. You can see that continues to evolve. ASU meets Arizona students. Again, resident graduate enrollment is not where we'd like it to be, except you throw in online. So it seems that from our perspective, online has really become the hot thing. Nancy, you want to say anything about online? And by the way, none of these guys know who's going to be asked what. So.
Well, actually, we just had a town hall with the online incoming and existing online students today, or this past week. It was a fabulous event. Our online students are fully engaged. They feel completely connected to the university. And that's in part because we really treat them as they're part of our community.
Yeah, so Nancy and I were personally on a town hall with online students, one of whom was sitting somewhere in Egypt. The other was in our Washington, D.C. center, who was visiting from where he took all of his classes. This second kid, who's the leader of one of the voting groups of our online students who have student government, student clubs, student participation. They're engaged with us. They're engaged with our faculty. They're engaged with our staff. This is the approach that we're taking. He said, I just wanted to travel around and live in Europe and take my degrees from ASU. So he was unusual. And so graduate enrollment higher than our comparators. Total enrollment, this is total enrollment of the institution. I want you to see where it's headed. So At this point, including online, obviously, but that, of course, is a whole new modality. We begin to approach among the larger systems in the country, in the traditional sense of the word. Arizona enrollment continues to grow. This is total resident enrollment, 41,000 up to 60,000. Again, adding up an entire university. Total enrollment greater than our comparators. This is the scale of where we are now versus systems, actual multi-campus systems. This is 10 campuses, 13 campuses, Penn State. I'm just trying to give you a sense of things. This is the first year enrollment by race and ethnicity. The students of European descent are in the gray. This used to be a white institution. It's no longer a white institution. You can say, one of our biggest missions accomplished, but we still have a long way to go. This is number of students of color we enroll versus our comparators. This is our accessibility. I've shown you this chart every year for many years, and it means that every year we're bringing in more and more and more students from lower income families, which is the majority of the population, by the way, just to be clear, than we ever had before. And then it turns out that there's a lot of kids in that far right one from families more than $400,000. I make fun of these guys. There's one guy that drives this matte blue Bentley with a glass pack on it in front of my office back and forth. I'm sure his family has more than $400,000 a year of family income. And so I don't know about that guy. And so Pell Grant recipients, have we reached out to families eligible for Pell Grants? I don't know. Does it look like we have? I think we have. 10,000 to 40,000. How many do we enroll compared to our comparators, the universities that are the most like us, pursuing the same mission? Take a look at some of these places. Look at Georgia Tech on the far right. First generation students, quadruple since '02. Nancy, explain this chart. Surprise, surprise, it's anti-M.
Yeah, even though the Arizona Community College enrollment has been declining very substantially, particularly in recent years and particularly with COVID, we've been on a continual increase. And as you see, we haven't been losing ground. We have very, very strong efforts in pathway programs with our community colleges, which we're going to just continue to escalate and build upon. We see that. Yeah.
And Cheryl's not here, but on
She's on Zoom.
Cheryl's on Zoom. Are you over there? I don't see her, but Cheryl Hyman is our vice provost responsible for these relationships and others. She was a community college system chancellor in the city of Chicago who moved here to help us to do this and other things that she's working on. She's worked on the project that you voted on relative to the Navy, or that you heard about relative to the Navy. So Cheryl has brought in an entire new skill set to everything that we're doing. Yeah, we got some international students, and somebody asked me the other day if all the international students went away during COVID. I'm like, no. We have more than 10,000, and we're number one among the public universities in the United States. And in one country's case, India, they went up, I think, relatively significantly. Military. I don't know what we were doing in '07, but I know what we're doing now in terms of people in the military. And this is veterans from '07 to now. First year retention, up, down a little bit because of COVID, but those might be students that dropped out for a part of a semester and they're already back. Sadly, in the counting system of the federal government, they're a college dropout, even if they come back. Who wants to explain this chart? Because not even I know this chart. Yes, Bob. Regent Herbold.
When do we get to ask some
Anytime
questions?
you raise your hand, I'll turn on you. Yes, Regent Herbold.
What's not going well?
Oh, we're not that far. We're coming to that part of the list.
Okay.
But all right, we'll start with Morgan. What's not going well?
What's not going well?
Or what's challenging?
Well, challenging is
Mask.
Challenging is being able to convince the state to make consistent investments that are in proportion, to our scale and the number of students that we're serving.
So we could say we failed at convincing the state to make investments in the public universities, at least our public university, at the level that we think is merited. So we failed at that. What else?
Or,
yeah,
do I have to admit everything?
No.
Well, I think with the scale of the university and we're growing the number of students that live in our living learning communities and attempting to meet the needs of a growing Sunbelt state, as well as growing the research infrastructure that Sally and her team are responsible for.
So, oh, by the way, she needs billions of dollars of stuff.
It's very capital intensive, so figuring out how to do that and build that into our business plans and our capital structure is an ongoing challenge. I wouldn't say it's a disaster, but it's sort of something you just have to work at every day.
I'll come back to some more of those points. So this slide basically says, please don't think about online students in the same way that you think about on-campus students. Just understand that we have a 90%, we're right at 88% with the goal of 90% course completion rate. You start the course online, you finish the course. And then your progression towards your online degree, student credit hours per academic year, which is a completely different model. These people are working, they might have 3 jobs, they could be doing this and this and this. And so these are indicators of where we are and where we're going. Graduation rates overall continue to go up to our 85% goal. I think one area where we do believe we have problems, Nancy, comment on our mysterious 6-year graduation rate. So a 6-year graduation rate, by the way, means you have been engaged in the institution continuously for 6 years and have not dropped out. If you drop out and come back and finish later, you don't count in this rate. And so it's an anomaly for us a little bit. So Nancy, just what are our issues there for Regent Herbold?
Yeah, the issues are, finding strategies to speed up the rate of progression so that we're moving students through more quickly. And we're attacking that from many angles. One is we're really trying to have policies in place and practices and scalable practices that are technology enhanced to reach students, to identify where they're struggling and make sure we bring them supports that they need. And we're also thinking on the other end, in partnership with Learning Enterprise, how do we make sure that students actually come in a little ahead of the game in certain respects so that it takes them shorter time to get through to degrees.
Well, and so it's funny, like people will look at our finances when we get to the finances part and they say, oh, you guys have all kinds of money. Like, are you kidding me? All kinds of money compared to who? We have 1/5 of the resources per student that Stanford has, 1/5. And we have to produce a person that goes out into the market with the same level of capability on 1/5 of the resources. And so this is a very challenging thing for us here because we could use more resources to help have more advisors, more this, more that. We're using technologies. Technologies have been very powerful to us, to make these things work, but they're not enough. They're not enough by themselves. Rich Stanley, you've been involved in higher education for 40 years. What to Regent Herbold's question, what's not going right? What's challenging?
So I think that
Rich Stanley, Senior Vice President of the University and University Planner.
I think there's a variety of things that we have been trying to do for some time now to evolve the institution. The development of the West Campus and the Polytechnic campuses, those are both fantastically better places than they were 10 years ago. But I think they're not as far along in their attraction of students as we'd like them to be. I think that kind of pressure on the Tempe campus will eventually be felt. And I think the other thing I would say is that.
So Regent Herbold, because you might not be familiar, we have 2 fantastic additional campuses that are not yet at the level of engagement that we would like them to be. They're about 1/3 of the size that we would like them to be in terms of students.
And another thing I would say is that the $1 billion goal for research is an extremely challenging goal. Not only because you have to find faculty who will be successful enough for that many proposals to generate $1 billion worth of work, but keeping up with the resources necessary to allow that to happen, both facility-wise, postdoc funding,
staff support,
graduate funding, staff support, renewal of equipment in existing facilities. It's a very, very expensive game to be in.
Complexity management also becomes very complex. I remember I was the chief research officer at Columbia, and I was visited by federal agents with badges on 4 occasions because of someone's screw up somewhere. Dr. Crow, we'd like to understand why all the rats are dead in building 62. And so Thank you.
And so, as Morgan has described with the larger financial picture, we have managed to keep up with it, but just barely, I would say, and it will always be a challenge as long as that research element is a critical piece of the mission, which it is always going to be.
And so just for the new Regents benefit, so Rich, before you came to ASU, what was your job?
I had the title of Executive Vice Provost at New York University. So I went from the largest private university in the country to the largest public university in the country. The title Executive Vice Provost is a misnomer, however, because I am not a faculty member.
Yes, and never wants to be one. What this tells you here is that this is our graduation rate, 4-year graduation rate compared to our comparators. You can see we're on the wrong side of the chart to the right. But everybody to the left, Virginia, North Carolina, Boston, and Berkeley only admit A students. That's the graduation rate of our admitted A students in 4 years. That's the graduation rate overall. That's the graduation rate in 4 years of the B students. And so President Cruz Rivera will know that that's a very good graduation rate for incoming B students to a public university, but nowhere near where we would like it to be. Graduation rates for transfer students, very high. We're moving that forward. Undergraduate degrees awarded. This is to give you a sense of the degrees that we are awarding. This is a dramatic transformation. Bachelor's degrees to Arizonans, back to Regent Duval, who got my attention. In fact, we did an entire study after your one question to see where we were. And this is a not insignificant transformation of our commitment to Arizona. Almost a doubling of the number of bachelor's degrees to residents. Bachelor's degrees transferring from community colleges. Graduate degrees. Now people say, I hear this all the time, even in meetings of business leaders in Arizona. Really? The losers still have to go to master's degrees also? They still can't get a job, so mommy and daddy are giving them more money to get their master's degree because they can't get a job? Okay. It turns out, look at that massive online effort to give people master's degrees. Look at where we're going in terms of graduate degrees overall. Pathways, this is resident graduate degrees by year. You can see that that's increasing also dramatically. ASU degrees in high demand fields over 10 years. I think President Robbins and President Cruz Rivera would say to you that this is probably difficult. Particularly when you're producing degrees, as the Arizona universities do, that are of the market value of any great university in the country. So 3,000 to 12,700. STEM fields, 1,800 to 7,900. And we think this is important to Arizona's present transformation and its future trajectory. This is just engineering. So I have Kyle Squires. Do you have a microphone back there, Kyle? What are you doing over there goofing off in the Fulton Schools of Engineering? What do you got going on over there? Kyle's our newly appointed Vice Provost and Dean of the Ira A. Fulton Schools, plural, Regent Herbold and Regent Pacheco. The name is not a typo. It's the Ira A. Fulton Schools of Engineering. So
Thank
Kyle.
you. So indeed, we have a lot of students that are seeking our degrees. We have a great experience for those students. So indeed, over 5,000 graduates last year was significant. Alongside all of the other things that are going on that Michael speaks about, the faculty driving research agendas, the connection into the community, the things that we're doing through the New Economy Initiative, and also increasingly at the federal level. So we're busy.
You have your hands full, aren't you and Sally? Sally, what are you trying to get, you and Kyle trying to do? You're trying to cause trouble in Washington? What do you have going on? I mean, it turns out, by the way, the United States, I was talking to some Europeans this morning at breakfast who were leaving after their 4-day visit, and I said, you guys should go back and report that we're not either as crazy, as lazy, as in the tank or in the ditch as you people seem to think we are. And so it's time for you to probably start waking up, because the United States has got some big things happening. Entire new shifts in microelectronics, new shifts in new energy systems, new technology systems. And so, Sally, what are we doing there on the microelectronic side?
Sure. So Phoenix is rapidly or already become microelectronics central. I think I've spoken to this group before about that. There's a lot of federal money in this space. Bills have gotten through, but we're waiting for a reconciliation between the House and the Senate bill in the US that will hopefully release funding.
It will be reconciled, it will be passed, it will happen, believe me.
And we're particularly interested in the microelectronics network, and the construction of this network idea was really led by Kyle and his colleagues in collaboration with several other universities. And we need to push this through and bring it back to Arizona.
So Jim O'Brien, we were feeling a little bit lost on whether or not we knew all of the intricacies of the future of artificial intelligence in the American economy. So the US government just ran a fantastic artificial intelligence commission where they brought in a whole bunch of people to talk about things. And we spotted a guy on the staff. So who did we hire and what is Kevin McGinnis doing for us in Washington?
Well, a young man named Kevin McGinnis from DC has joined the ASU team. And in the end, I think Kevin's reflected the fact that, you know, these institutions, our institution, is dependent on the talent we have. And it's dependent on the people we have and the people we attract. And so with the right curation of the right team, we can do almost anything. And so one thing I think we've been missing here, this is not a matter of lobbying or government relations in its traditional sense. It's a matter of having access to information, knowledge, insight into what's happening in DC at these more subtle policy levels. And Kevin is someone, given his 2 years of service on this national commission, working with Eric Schmidt in and around the microelectronics industry and the future of microelectronics in the United States and its enhancement for our competitive position versus China and versus the rest of the world. Kevin's someone who now added to the team helps us in these pursuits, working very closely with the whole team. And so working with Sally and working with Kyle, Kevin's an addition that I think it makes it possible to achieve what Sally just set out.
So Kyle, if we win the things that we're pursuing just in microelectronics, what will we have?
So the principal piece of that legislation that we're advancing, it's called the National Network for Microelectronics Research and Development. And it's, as Michael spoke about, it was passed in USICA. It's also in the Competes Act that came out of the House. That would be a $2 billion national network. And if that happens at that scale, the contribution within Arizona over 5 years would be about $600 million.
Yes, Regent Herbold.
One of the most interesting slides you had, from my point of view, was the realization that the GDP per person is declining.
In Arizona, yes.
Yeah.
Not Colorado, Utah, Texas, or
Right.
Washington, but in Arizona, yes.
What's it going to take to turn that line?
I wish that we could produce 10,000 engineers and get 8,000 of them to stay in Arizona, because then it would mean that there were enough of those jobs there that they were driving the economy. It's very much related to these kinds of industries that we're talking about. And Sally's our coordinator for the New Economy Initiative. We're going to talk about that down the road. So it takes the building of the new economy, which doesn't mean the rejection of the old economy. It means the addition of the new economy to the foundational economy of Arizona.
Do you think a factor is that we simply don't have enough universities?
We don't have enough college graduates, which can be attributed to the fact that we don't have enough universities, yes. Absolutely. So, knowledge enterprise. These are all kinds of things we've got going on. You've heard about these. I'm not going to walk through these. We're working in many, many different areas of research. We're continuing to evolve our research competitively. The goal is very, very challenging. As you've heard from others, it's probably the most challenging goal we have because of what's required to do this and the speed with which we're evolving. We are among the fastest growing, that gold line is us, the fastest growing research universities in the country. Indiana picked up another campus, and so they got to shoot up there. One of their board members was just here with 2 of their senior officers taking a close look at what we're doing. We showed you these slides before, and I only put the U of A on here not to gig them, but to just basically always remind the board that the board has 2 research universities, 2 major research universities, and that's a treasure for the state of Arizona. And so this one here is important to us. Non-medical research expenditures. 2 years ago, this is my old school that I was the chief research officer at Columbia. Of 915 schools doing research, if you take out their medical school expenditures, we're 18th. I'm not going to walk you through all of these. I am going to say that we're doing well in engineering. We're doing well in certain subjects. We're doing well in electrical engineering. We're doing well in the humanities, very well, in psychology and political science, social sciences, and NASA funding, where the U of A does beat us. And then NSF, this is really important. The National Science Foundation is indicative of the competitive quality of the faculty in the social sciences, the behavioral sciences, in the physical sciences, the life sciences. Sally, just for the board, just on National Science Foundation, you know, you're only a year into the institution. What does that mean, that line right there?
Well, this is the first year, I believe, that ASU has hit into the top 20. And
And this data is 2 years old.
Right, 2 years old. And our funding is looking very good in the subsequent 2 years, including the one we're in. I think this is a matter of the quality of the faculty and the work that they're doing, quite simply, and the reputation the university now has.
So U of A is our sister, and these two are not our sisters. And these jokers are not our sisters. And so we beat them in funding from the most competitive of all of the agencies. This is a sign of the maturation of the institution. So Lev Gonik, who's our Chief Technology Officer and the head of what we call Enterprise Technology, has been in the university world in and out. So Lev, when you see this, what do you see? And so give you a little bit, like you came from Northeast Ohio and Case Western and so forth.
Right. I met Bob Herbold up in Cleveland. Good to see you again. Lev Gonik.
So what does that mean when you see that?
When I see that, basically, I get excited because there's just a whole lot higher we can go. Most of those institutions have been in the world of computationally driven research for 50 years. And although we've been in the game, we haven't been in the game seriously. And working with Sally, I think you're going to see ASU be able to tap into computationally driven research, which should propel us even closer to the #1 position.
So one of the things that Sally did when she first got here was she started hearing some of the needs and the concerns that we had for computational enhancement. And all she said was, I need millions and millions and millions of new dollars, and I need it right now. I'm like, we don't have millions and millions and millions of dollars, at least that's what Morgan told me. But somehow we found it anyway, and what did we buy? Either Sally or Lev, so.
We did acquire a state-of-the-art, brand-new computational cluster to advance research. It builds on top of 2 existing facilities, but it actually provides us well towards 50% more capacity. And as we've told...
And what that sucker cost?
Lots of money. But actually, just to let you all know, there's requests for more coming because it is the engine that drives successful scientific research. And perhaps just also to share, it is also driving as we extend computational research to the teaching and learning function.
That means this is not just for science and technology faculty. This is for all teaching and learning at the institution.
Right.
Indeed, some of our largest users are actually in our social sciences and humanities.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important, the inclusion in the educational mission. And as I reported to the Research and Health Subcommittee a few weeks ago, we've also just been asked to be part of IBM's Quantum Computing Hub. We're one of the only universities that's part of that. We already have other universities asking to be part of our hub, so that's terribly exciting for ASU and the state.
So new to ASU, and for the 2 new regents, really important. We also produce companies. This is a $300 million venture-backed company in Scottsdale. That's a water technology company. OncoMix Therapeutics, I see Neil Woodbury back there, the university's Chief Science and Technology Officer. What is OncoMix? Now, by the way, we don't have a medical school, but we got, just take a gander at that middle box there and what's happened there.
So OncoMix is
Neil, by the way, is a senior professor in the School of Molecular Sciences, and I have to say that Neil has been the leader of the institution's effort to manage our way through the technical sides of COVID, and he and the people that he's been working with have just been unbelievable. So thank you, Neil.
So OncoMix is a company that has been doing some really interesting things. This is led by Grant McFadden in the Biodesign Institute. And what they discovered was that it turns out that certain kinds of viruses that run around in rabbits and kill rabbits don't kill people, but they kill tumors in people. And so they've harnessed these viruses and have trained them to take the right drugs and the right things to the right places.
So their labs are in the Biodesign Institute, and where's their company?
Their company is downtown in our building downtown.
The Wexford building.
The Wexford building downtown.
How much did they just raise?
30 million.
At least 50.
I think 75.
There we go,
million.
more. And so I'm not going to walk you through all of these, but we're producing water technologies, cancer therapeutics, biomedical analytic systems and devices. We've got lots of invention disclosures. We're one of the top institutions in the country, issued patent startups, invention disclosures. All of this is being leveraged. These are the investments that have come to our spin-out companies. Over $1 billion. None of this, nothing existed in this modality in the institution historically. Nothing. Learning enterprise. Let's read the slide. 84% of the American population, varies a little bit depending on when you ask it and whether it's winter or summer, but they don't believe they have a chance to improve their standard of living. Time to fix that. This is a chart that we've used a lot that shows I think we're going to take that 80 plus and make it higher, right? Make it higher.
120.
Yeah, so the learning enterprise is going to make certain that we are providing learning content throughout the entirety of a person's life. We just are unwilling to accept the fact that college is only for 18 to 25-year-olds. And so Nancy and Maria, how are you going to work out what would be the fight? I notice you're sitting at the opposite side of the table. And there's Chris between you now. So.
Well, I think we've been collaborating very effectively. In fact, Nancy spoke about the pathways you're creating. We actually have had we talked about the universal learner courses, and we've had over 3,000 learners from those courses actually go into pathways into ASU degrees.
And by the way, none of this is in any of our numbers because these are all things that you're driving enrollment. You're driving people coming to the university. So Nancy,
Yeah.
what's the complexity here?
Well, there's great complexity, and we're working closely to figure it all out. I mean, there are multiple pathways into the university, and that's what we want. Multiple pathways at all stages of one's life.
If you dropped out from high school, you take these four learning classes, universal learning classes, and you do well in those classes, there's a good chance you'll be admitted.
But then you have to make sure that the pathways that you're creating articulate into degrees that have been approved by, the Higher Learning Commission, that have been approved by our Faculty Senate, that have gone through Abort approval, that really meet the quality standards that we really want to be promoting for the university. And so we have to articulate everything that we're doing carefully to make sure that those pathways are meaningful and successful and are going to have us all achieve our outcomes.
So this is new for us. This is under construction, and it's Maria is the architect of this. She's built a team of people, many of whom are distributed on the West Coast, who are bringing in sort of the culture of the place that they're located and working with us in California and Seattle and other places. And so it is also the case, I want to be clear to the Regents, we have to do this in a way where it doesn't diminish one whit the availability of any asset to any student attending the university physically or digitally. It has to be a pure public good in that sense, or completely financed by some other source. And so Maria's, who brings in a financial career from the outside in the business sector, then brings that skill set here also. These are the kinds of numbers. Where are we going to end up by FY25? What are your goals, Maria?
50 million learners.
You heard it right. 50 million. And you say, how can you possibly do that? No, I'm serious. There's no reason we can't do it, other than we have to find, not all of them will be unfortunately paying us money. Many of them will just be using the assets that we have, but we will then be taking data from them and interactions with them and guiding them into lifelong universal learning outcomes.
One thing to add, President Crow, is that these numbers represent only the ones that we have enrolled in actual courses. But for example, what it doesn't represent is the 1.5 million views we've had in our YouTube channel that's just been out for 6 months. And so we have really amazing numbers of learners that are engaging with us that we have not yet created the tech infrastructure to count.
And speaking of YouTube, what did they just do with us?
And so they have even doubled down on their relationship with us and invested $10 million to continue to create these courses that will live, short form content that will live on YouTube and connect to our courses at ASU.
They want to help us to find students to find their way to us, because they think that's a part of what they can do as a part of their social mission. ASU Prep Digital. Jim Rund, anything you want to add about how we're doing this year and all of that? I mean, we shut down during COVID, right? We sent all the kids home.
We had 50,000 individual unique learners in Prep Digital during COVID with the help of the governor's office and Superintendent of Public Instruction. and the Helios Foundation, our team stood up a teacher training institute because we realized that Arizona teachers who are in immersion environments did not have much experience.
How many did we train?
Well, now 15,000 to date.
And by the way, we have the technology to do that. We have the know-how to do that. And then Jim has assembled this team of these, I don't know what to call them. I'll just call them like super fighters or something.
Amy's on the Zoom if you want.
Amy, are you on the Zoom, Amy? Oh, is she waving? I can't see her. She just told you she'd be on the Zoom. So we're doing great things here. And then ASU Prep and ASU Prep Digital come together, contributing more broadly. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. You'll see this in the presentation. Here's some more of the numbers, learners, teachers, more learners, students in our on-campus programs. The new Regents in particular should know that we have on-campus charter schools also that we're working on. Creating scalable learning. This is what we were just talking about with the YouTube. This is the crash course program funded by YouTube. I'm trying to give the sense of the Regents that there's nothing static about anything that we're doing. Partnering, meetings, groups, investments. Dan Dillon, just give a quick rundown on RealmSpark very quickly, how many companies are involved, what RealmSpark is. It's an enterprise partners unit. Chris Howard's got to get up to speed on all these things, and then we're going to leverage a bunch of stuff together. But what are we doing in RealmSpark, and how's it related to this kind of stuff?
RealmSpark is a early stage ed tech VC organization that plays matchmaker really with early stage ed tech and the needs of the university. And in return for that access, we get equity. And so right now we have about, 65 companies that we've got equity in, some through capital investments, some through just pure access. And then it turns around, and when there's a liquidating event of some event, we benefit.
We just had a liquidation event with one of the companies that then is leading to a new deal. Just describe that one. So a company helped us to build content. We had invested in this company to keep the company alive through our not-for-profit subsidiaries with their own resources and so forth and so on. So just give a quick rundown on that.
Yeah, so we put $1 million into this company to enable it to continue to work with the university and build out its platform. It was acquired by Cambridge University Press for $1.8 million 18 months later. And then a company in Cambridge University Press was created to take what that company does, Cogbooks. There was another company that was a facilitator of that. We've just invested in that company and gotten equity in that and a board seat. And so we continue to control the direction that those companies are going.
And I have a meeting on March 8th in London, among other meetings, with the president of the Cambridge University Press, who is then working with us to take global the math curriculum that we're working on that's been heavily invested in by the Parsons Foundation. Bob and Renee Parsons Foundation here in Arizona, who gave us a commitment of a substantial investment to now advance math curriculum to overcome these math barriers and so forth and so on. So the Cogbooks project, the Cambridge University Press project, the Parsons Foundation, all these things are connected. Upskilling programs are launched that Maria's already talked about. You'll see this in the presentation. Learners are already out there. There's high school learners, ULC learners, Starbucks learners, all kinds of people that are out there already. None of this is in our normal data. None of this is, these are all people figuring out how to go to college, figuring out how to take courses. A Starbucks learner is not the same as a Starbucks student that's in a degree program. We have trained tens of thousands of people in our learner programs already. Enterprise operations. We got a lot going on. The middle picture is the now open Los Angeles Center. The right picture is the DC Center. We got the Phoenix Metro campuses, lots happening. Just take a look at these numbers. We got 11,000 international students, 1,200 education and service programs that are global, 187 academic partnerships that are global, 25 international locations where we have ASU staff and functions all over the world, including Jim O'Brien, who visited. How many staff do we have in Moscow, Russia? 30, because when we got Thunderbird, we got them. We weren't quite sure what they did, and so I sent Jim over there and said, make sure they're not criminals. He came back and said they were okay. They're training. They train people. 85 study abroad programs. Rich Stanley, the picture on the left. What in the heck is that?
It's a big boat. It's a picture of the campus of the Bermuda Institute of Ocean Sciences. It's a research operation that has been in existence for close to 100 years now on Bermuda. Runs some of the longest research studies on the Atlantic Ocean in history. It is now a component unit of the university. We needed to get.
Shazam, it's a component unit of the university.
We needed substantial, if we're going to be a global futures lab, you can't ignore 2/3 of the Earth's surface. And so this is an opportunity to get some very successful scientists to join our organization. Some will become faculty members, some will continue as research scientists. Some will be splitting their time between Arizona and Bermuda, some will stay in Bermuda, and then we will build on top of that an ocean sciences operation that will be in addition to what's already going on in Hawaii.
For the new regents, none of that stuff existed before COVID, all done during COVID. In fact, there was a board meeting last Saturday in Bermuda. Several ASU officers went to that. Several of us didn't go to it because we needed to be here at this meeting. And if we'd gone there and gotten tested positive, then we'd have to stay there in some I don't know, like dorm at that place for the next 2 weeks or something before we could get out of there. So we decided not to go except by video. The airplane flying there, you will see that it says ASU on it. That's an ASU aircraft. It's an unbelievable scientific observatory with unbelievable laser LiDAR-based equipment that is focused on global climate change, global warming, and so forth. It's based at our camp, at our base in Hawaii. So that is Provost Gonzalez. And that is not the pyramid in Las Vegas behind her. That was what, 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
In Egypt. So why were you in Egypt 2 weeks ago? Just to let you know, we're not like sitting around like minding the store here. So Nancy.
We were signing an agreement with Galala University, which is a new national university launched by the government of Egypt to try to promote educational attainment and economic development for the whole Arab region and the African continent. And we are partnering with them to support the development of their degrees, particularly starting in engineering and business, but also to launch a complicated way to allow students to have dual degrees in both Galala and ASU.
Which is quite complicated and fraught with problems, as the provost knows and others know, to Regent Herbold's question. None of these maneuvers are easy, but what this will give us is a flow of revenue for the assets that we've already built, the technological assets that we've already built. It also gives us a flow of international students from what will ultimately be a network of 50 international university partners. And so, Lev Ganek, what is the technological challenge of these kinds of networks? What are all the things that we're doing and how are you protecting our interests? That is from a technological perspective, because we have to make this thing work on a global basis.
No problem at all. Actually, obviously, there's lots of complexity all over the world. Some of you will probably know Egypt has shut off its internet from time to time. We've tried to make sure that we have a way of making sure that all of our students and all the students.
I'll just add for the Regents, the American government wants us involved in all of these projects. These are all the countries we're operating in right now, thus far, are places that the government of the United States is very happy about our presence.
So we do take very seriously making sure that the lifeline of learning, which is today including the internet, is actually available at all of the campuses. We do it in partnership with our colleagues at Santana, the ASU Santana Alliance. We're joined at the hip that way. And everywhere they go, we are quick to make sure that we have technology to support those activities, as well as making sure that they have access to all of our systems that actually support the delivery of the education content. That too is fairly complicated, as for example, in China, very complicated for us to actually put our servers for learning management, for example. They're not all that interested in having our servers there. So negotiating creatively with that, we've managed to pull it off in ways that I think give all of our students, whether they're students that enrolled in any of these facilities or students, for example, who were caught back home during COVID, all feeling like they were still very much connected to an ASU experience, no matter where they are in the world in any of our programs.
So this slide is one of the deep virtual reality classrooms that we have built. And I'm going to say something to you, and then Regent Dave has already experienced this. So literally this semester, a group of several hundred undergraduates taking biology 181 at Arizona State University are doing the lab. There's no joke, and I know this is being recorded, and citizens out there are saying, I knew those fools at the university were wasting my money. And so this is all, donations. But beyond that, your lab this year in Bio 181, if you're in the right section, is not on Earth. It's on the Alien Zoo, which is in space, built by a galactic species that has gathered species from all over the galaxy, collected them, and you're learning biology in a completely unique way, which is a level playing field for every student that enters the Alien Zoo. And I've done it too many times. It is an unbelievable experience that we believe will result in 3 grade levels of enhancement of the students that are able to take these classes with these virtual reality programs. And this is all new. You've done it. Regent Dave, what's your finding?
So I'm also a biology student doing a master's in biology. So my initial reaction was kind of concern as far as how are we teaching biology without the concepts of biology, but it's very clear that it's a really completely new way of learning for students because it changes the way that we engage with the material that we learn, and it changes the mode in which we learn completely. It's a complete movement away from learning material through textbooks, through being told information, and it's entirely a different modality in where you engage with the material that you learn, you engage with the tools that you're learning to use. And then I think one of the unique things that I really enjoyed about it too was that not only is it a tool for students to learn, but then it's also, for example, biology is being taught through this, but then on top of it,
starting with biology, it'll become other things. Yeah.
But then virtual reality design, AR, VR design is being taught by this, and electrical engineering is being taught by this. And when I went to go in, there was a student, the student who was actually operating the whole thing. It wasn't actually a dreamscape, or it wasn't an employee. It was a student who had learned what all of these technologies did.
We can afford the students.
And taught. So yeah, 10 out of 10. I highly recommend anyone who hasn't done it.
Yeah, if you haven't done it, some regents maybe have done it. They've already done it? All right, good. So all that was done since COVID, by the way. Starbucks is continuing to advance on many, many levels. Great relationship. The Mayo Clinic relationship is advancing on many, many levels. Most importantly, Mayo Clinic said, we're so committed to Arizona. We like our relationship with ASU. We like what's going on in Arizona. Why don't we buy the 250 acres around the 200 acres that we already have and build a world-class, unbelievable, scaled tech center related to the future of healthcare. And I don't say the future of medicine, the future of healthcare, which then connects to the meeting that the presidents were in yesterday on the Phoenix BioHub and so forth and so on. That, by the way, is our building that we built on right next to the Mayo Clinic. Lots of, you guys know about most of these. These partnerships are continuing to expand through Ed Plus. Fundraising has been fantastic. The endowment's at its highest level ever. Likely to be greatly accelerated if some schemes that we're working on come out and work in our favor. All dependent on Jim O'Brien and Dan Dillon, right? So don't screw up. Enterprise finances. So thankfully, Morgan Olson many years ago left Purdue University to save us from ourselves and get us on the right track. So Morgan, what does this chart say?
Well, so this chart is essentially the revenues of the enterprise, which we define as ASU, Arizona State University, and our component units, to use accounting speak, but many of the entities that support the university in achieving its mission that President Crow has been talking about. So we follow this and report on a regular basis. And this time period is when President Crow became president of Arizona State University, essentially to the present. And we have made quite a transformation, I think, in our business model during that time period. So if you look at the various major components, what you'll see is that state investment has been flat. It's grown on an average over that time period of 0.3% annually.
Over 20 years, the lowest number in the United States of any major university.
Which means essentially it hasn't changed. So same investment that we had at the start of this period is what we have today, despite all the other changes.
Just for the reasons, just interrupt. So that some politicians say to me, well, if we cut you to zero, think of what you could do then. And that's a miscalculation on their part. It's a serious miscalculation on their part. If their resources were higher to support students, our graduation rate would be dramatically higher. If their resources were higher to support students, more students would be coming to college. And so I'm not going to walk you through what all that means, but that's a miscalculation on their part. And we then would also be able to generate even additional revenue to leverage the additional revenue that they gave us, which they told me several times in the last few years, they consider it impossible. They said it's impossible to be given a few $100 million of public resources and to generate a few $1 billion of additional resources from those resources. I said, okay, it's impossible. Morgan?
So our projected revenues, as you've seen this year for the enterprise, are about 4.35 billion. State investment, again, has not grown at all. The fastest growing part of our enterprise resources has been tuition and fees. But I hasten to tell people that the very large majority of that increase has been from growth, not from increases in price, but from growth. And there's data coming, I think, later in the presentation that will show benchmarking of how much we spend per student, how much we spend to produce each degree. And what you'll find is the university has become increasingly efficient, if you will, over time. And so when you think about the state's investment being static over the last 2 decades, it's a tremendous bargain in terms of what we are producing in terms of human capital that then contributes to society and the advancement of the economy in Arizona. Just quickly, a couple of other things. In addition to tuition fees, the next largest growing part of our budget is the ever popular other category. That's things like return on financial investments, interest income on the operating cash of the university that we invest toward the purposes of the institution, and then something that the accountants call departmental sales and services, the biggest piece of which is actually income from what we do with real estate. So the point would be that many of these things that President Crow is talking about are basically tools or instrumentalities that produce the resources that we need to achieve the university's mission. So high level revenue over this time period of the enterprise has grown at about 8.6% annually, expenses about 8.1% annually. As a result, our net position, accountants speak, for net assets have quadrupled to over $4 billion during that time period.
So many years ago, someone paid a lot of money for me to go to this short course at Oxford University at the Said School of Business. And one of the main cases at this short course that I went to for a couple weeks was Heathrow Airport and its evolution as a public enterprise after Margaret Thatcher. So how could you take public land, a public asset, public purpose, public objectives, and generate enough money to pay for the entire service that's being offered and generate income to provide more income to the rest of the government for things that they were ultimately doing? And I don't know if they're still running everything exactly like they were running it then, but it was an unbelievable lesson at the leverage of public assets. So I'll just make the point that one of the things that we've been saying to Arizona overall is that we think there's unbelievable this is a digression, there's unbelievable public assets that could be leveraged in Arizona. They're unbelievable, almost unparalleled. Tens of millions or almost 10 million acres of land. There's unbelievable other assets, just everything that's possible. Airports, airport authorities, not just the state government, but the city governments. None of them are being operated as fully leveraged public enterprises where they could generate this kind of return. This is how we do on resources per degree, less resources per degree. This is where we are. How many dollars do we have to produce a degree? Quality resources as, the tuition appropriations per degree as time goes along, we keep the quality maintaining. This basically says that in terms of the actual cost, very disciplined, particularly against inflation over time. This is our efficiency that I think Regent Duval was talking about and others were talking about, just very, very efficient. These are all of our comparators, employees per whatever. Fewer employees per student than nearly all of our comparators. Prioritizes spending on the keeping administrative spending low. Now, Regent Herbold, we don't know what you were doing when you were on the board at University of Cincinnati, but we'd be happy to know. And the Bearcats have done pretty well also on a number of other fronts. So Universities are, this is inflation, which is non-trivial in the sector that we're in. This is something we talked about earlier and with the Regents. I won't go through it again, which is our commitment to less than 3% in-state tuition increase for 10 years going into the future, with 10 years under our belt already achieved. This is how that results in then our relative tuition relative to the other public universities in Arizona. This is how we are relative to the other universities in the Pac-12. To the left is good. This is our tuition. This is our tuition across our comparators. This is the chart that Regent Herbold you were asking about earlier. It basically says, this is for undergraduate students from Arizona, 35,708. 8,022 of those undergraduates come from families with less than $20,000 of family income. $20,000 of family income. Another 5,000 with less than $35,000. So you can see that's 13,500 people almost. Under 50,000, another $4,000 more. By the way, that's the tuition line. So those students from those families aren't paying any tuition to go to ASU. And you can see how this works out across the front. The orange is us.
That's your money.
Yes. And you can imagine what that totals to across that many tens of thousands of students. And so the way that we operate the university financially leads to this kind of outcome.
But Michael,
Yes.
to go back to that slide, the amount of federal money is quite significant. So
Yeah, those are Pell grants. So these are grants, not loans. And so for these families here, so a Pell grant's just under $6,000, depending on how you count it. And so anyone at that income level or below is eligible for a full Pell grant. These are partial. Jim Run, do you want to explain any of that?
Well, the Pell grants are available to students at various thresholds, and
So you can get a Pell grant of a certain amount depending on your family income, right?
Our institutional aid for students at the low income levels is a commitment to room, board, and tuition and fees.
Yes.
To ensure their enrollment at the institution.
Right. So 2021, full COVID, everything going on, all kinds of strange articles, colleges closed, colleges this, colleges that, people kicked out of residence halls. I'm going to flash through these. These are projects that were either completed or nearly completed in 2021. The new headquarters for the Global Futures Laboratory now operational and being loaded up in terms of people moving in. The largest research building that we've ever built. When you see this thing, we'll have one of the meetings over there. It's an unbelievable facility. LEED Platinum, unbelievable facility. We have a naming announcement that we're going to have for this facility at some point. Without telling you the details of it, it's going to be a fantastic family and a fantastic name for the facility. Open now, operational in California. This is a beautiful, completely renovated facility that's now getting use. It's being used. Things are happening. We've got events there, degree programs there, programs going on. News bureau is operational. This is the project, the Mix Center, Media and Immersive Experience Center in downtown Mesa. That's a picture, not a drawing. That'll be open when, Morgan?
A couple months.
Couple months. Fabulous facility, state-of-the-art technology. Lev, what's in it that's not in other things?
State-of-the-art, really Hollywood immersive environments. Every picture that your kids or grandkids want to see, that's amazing digital transformation work. No other university in the country actually has these immersive theaters. We'll be opening up not only here, but also in Los Angeles, a whole series of these, which
then will allow us to run an all-region film school, have thousands of students engaged with us, and the city of Mesa invested $75 million in that facility, and we invested, what, Rich, about $50 million total in that, including the equipment, which is never enough. This building's now open. This is the first Novus office tower, the second office tower. Have we made an announcement yet, or do we know where
We haven't, but we expect to be breaking ground in a few months.
Right, so that's going great guns. We've got unbelievable potential tenants, more people that want to be here. By the way, the ISTB 7 building connects by a bridge across to a parking structure, as you'll remember from your Novus briefings. This is the Health Future Center located at the Mayo Clinic in Phoenix. Mayo Clinic has decided, I'll ask Neil. Neil, you're managing our relationship with the Mayo Clinic. What is Mayo building just across the ditch from this building, the Arroyo.
So this is our research building, and right across the ditch and a few rattlesnakes is their research building coming up. So we will have paired research buildings right next to each other. Mayo is going to be with us in ours. We're going to be with them in theirs, and
Well, Mayo is with us in ours.
Yes,
Yeah,
is with us in ours.
I was walking by a room in this building a couple months ago, and this dude looks at me and he goes, "Is that you, Crow?" I said, "Yes, we're wearing masks and stuff." And he says, "Well, I need your blood." I think, Jim, were you with me that day? Did he? Yeah. So his name is Doug Lake. And so Neil knows Doug Lake. So Doug takes my blood. I had to sign some piece of paper. And so then he says, "Well, you're in the study. And we're going to study how your shots work on your body." And so have I been beating you then, Jim, on the antibodies, or you've been beating me? You're losing. I'm losing. Because they come back and take our blood every 2 weeks. And because I'm older, much older than Jim, mine apparently isn't holding up as well. So this thing is open. Joanne Vogel, who's in this thing? This is in downtown Phoenix. This is not a drawing. This is the building.
This is an incredibly fantastic, incredibly important space for our students, our faculty, downtown Phoenix, and the guests who come to visit us as entrepreneurs and residents. And so what you see there in the first 3 floors are academic spaces, maker spaces, fabrication labs to do fashion, popular music, has state-of-the-art recording studios. And then the 13 floors that you see headed above those 3 are residence spaces, where we have 532 students who get to live and enjoy the wonderful academic and learning facilities around them.
This dude is also open, downtown Phoenix, privately financed. The last one was privately financed, at least the top floors. The bottom floors, I think we financed.
Yes.
And so, Sally, what's going on in this building?
Well, there's a mixture of university as well as private companies in this building, including faculty from the College of Health Solutions working on nutrition research and a variety of other research going on there.
Yeah, and so this isn't a part of the Phoenix Bioscience Hub. That's what the place is going to be called going forward. What core? Yeah, Phoenix, the PBC, Phoenix Bioscience Core. So this is one of the buildings in the core, and this is a part of a project that the Regents have been active in when the city told us, we're going to give you the 7.5 acres of land, but you got to attract private investment and attract into the private investment new things. And so what are there, Sally or Neil, 4 or 5? There's U of A spin-out companies in here. There's a community college innovation center in here. There's an ASU innovation center in here. Neil, what else? What are the other companies? I know U of A has one company in here.
Yeah,
also.
there's 3 ASU companies in there, and there's another 3 companies. U of A has companies in there, and there's other ones from the outside too.
Right. So we're very excited about this facility because these people in Philadelphia put themselves at risk and brought their capital to bear and made these things happen. Now, we took space in the facility, which helped the project to work, but they're already moving forward with the second project. You've already heard about this project today, which is the new ASU multipurpose arena. This is the now completed and open Thunderbird School of Global Management global headquarters with a fabulous new, Regent Penley used to be the president shepherding Thunderbird to survival. And so it's not only surviving, it's surviving and prospering, and there's fantastic spaces in there, lots of great things that are happening. This project is the funniest, goofiest project. I can see this project from my window. I think it's taken us 27 years to do this renovation project. How long did it take, Morgan?
Significantly less than that. And just for the record, the reason it took that long is because we didn't want to move everybody out of the building because we have so many classrooms in there that we needed to continue to keep parts of it in operation when we weren't revitalizing.
So this now is a fabulous rework of a building that had really run its entire life. I've been in the building, I walked around it. It's a fabulous new building where our School of International Languages and Cultures is located, and it's really a fabulous renovation. So, oh, by the way, that would be what the Tempe Omni Hotel will look like when completed. And it's about a quarter finished right now. And so lo and behold, steel and concrete are moving forward, and the building immediately to the left of it is the Mirabella 65-year-old, 55-year-old and older dormitory for the families that are living there. We built the Creativity Commons, restoring or renovating a whole floor of a building, doing the DreamWorks thing. This just kills me, this project. Morgan, what are we doing with our $60 million for undergraduate laboratories?
So the.
Just to let you know what it costs to educate people in undergraduate science. And by the way, this is where other states make investments in these kinds of things. $60 million to renovate laboratories to teach undergraduate science.
The Bateman Sciences Complex supports physics and chemistry and physical sciences. It's the basically teaching labs for these programs, and we're renovating a little less than 2 parts of that complex. I think there are about 6 or 7 buildings total in that complex. We're investing $60 million in this particular set of renovations.
Not just this room, but.
No, it's actually several rooms, but it will give us, state-of-the-art new teaching laboratories. That's the good news. The bad news is there's a whole lot more left to do over time.
One of the issues of operating at scale, and then I'll also say, so Nancy, how do students taking online degrees which require chemistry labs, what do they do for their chemistry labs?
Well, we handle labs in a couple of ways. One is some of our lab courses use virtual reality to teach the content. For a chemistry, because the chemists need to touch materials at some point, we designed a process whereby the online students would come to ASU over the summer and do an intensive kind of boot camp where they do all their lab sciences all at once. We didn't know how this would work. It has been an enormous success.
Turns out it's probably a better way to teach undergraduate laboratories, which is intensive, all in, the only thing that you're working on. What's next? Well, if you think we've given up, we haven't. And so this is projecting out. So we have this new 2027 goal looking 5 years into the future. To achieve all of our goals, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. We're going to have to increase our revenue from $4.3 billion this year to $4.6 billion next year to $6.9 billion by FY27 to achieve our objectives. And we're not asking the state for any additional resources yet. These are the kinds of goals that we have. You've seen this before. You can take a close look at it. This gives you a sense. Yes?
You assume sustainability of federal funds?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. At least. This is the greatest moment in the history of the country since the end of World War II in the reinvigoration of federal resources for science and technology. It is off the charts. There's so much money right now. Who knows who's going to pay for it, but that's someone else's problem. And so we've got to take it and use it and make it successful. Jim O'Brien is an old, long ago Washington hand for a while. What's going on in Washington, Jim? Not the other stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Not that special committee that's like looking at people, not that one. What's the other?
But to Sally's benefit, for the achievement of her goal, the federal government has accommodated the goal setting here by investing, as you suggested, in science and technology in new ways.
And not just hard science, behavioral science, social science, all kinds of things.
All of which is going to make it much easier to achieve these goals. But the challenge along the way is to identify the resources, to pursue them successfully, and to do good work with them. But
so I was in a meeting the other day. I'm in too many meetings, but one of the meetings I was in at 4:30 in the morning or something, because I was in the wrong time zone for some of the other people that were in Europe, was to talk about the new ARPA-H. So there's DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, which is one of the most powerful creative engineering and technology organizations on the planet. And then there's ARPA-E, which is the Advanced Research Projects Agency for energy stuff, and they funded all kinds of projects. ASU's done very well in that. And now they've set aside $6.3 billion for ARPA-H, which is, can you build health technologies that can speed positive solutions to our society? That's all new. None of that even existed. And so this is why the TRIP funding is so important to us. We use the TRIP funding to help us to prepare, to compete, to launch the projects, to make these things happen, because they allow us to build these processes. So to Regent Duval's comment or question, yeah, we got no concerns on that front, none.
Can you go back to that once more?
Yeah, sorry.
So what I'm seeing, if I look at the differences from 22 to 27, there's a huge increase in online revenue.
Yes.
There's a very large increase in the learner and other revenue.
Yes.
Those are the two things that are significantly different in those 5 years.
So yes, And so without going into this in great detail, that is our financial secret sauce, of how you actually make the university work and fund it. So Maria, what is your margin objective?
20%.
Okay, so we're not showing, this is not the financial structure of the institution. These are the revenue sources. Now, the financial structure, once you have the revenue, that's a completely different thing. All this says is that we have our realms of learning, the chart that you've seen before, on campus. Remember the core of knowledge, campus immersion. Again, just for the Regents, going from 80,000 to 90,000, greater than 90,000 students. ASU Sync. Nancy, what's an ASU Sync degree?
That's remote education that is synchronous rather than like online is asynchronously taught.
So synchronous means you can be anywhere, zoom in, like these people are zooming in right now, and you're in the class, you're in the degree program. We think there's some PhD programs that can be run that way. We think there's a lot of master's programs that can be run that way. So to go from a few that we're testing to a few thousand, digital immersion from 85,000 enrollment to greater than 140,000 enrollment, the demand is there, the programs are there. We're honing this. Dan and others are working on whole new ways for us to advance. Massively open is just many. This education through exploration, which is the virtual reality stuff and all that stuff, we think we can get some things going there. That's sort of where we're headed. We're trying to take on these kinds of big problems, the New Economy Initiative, launching the New Economy Initiative. So Sally, what are you focusing on in the New Economy Initiative?
Well, I presented to the group before in the immediate, working with Kyle and Fulton Schools of Engineering, we've launched the first 2 science and technology centers, one in advanced manufacturing and the other in energy materials and devices. And we'll be moving forward on the next 3 science technology centers soon.
So I started at the bottom. So launch the New Economy Initiative for Arizona, launched, and Sally is the point person for the ASU team. Kyle and others are driving their colleges and their units forward and so forth. Transform student success for Arizonans through technologically enhanced instruction. How can we take every tool that we've made, everything that our faculty and our staff have put together in the education college and other parts of the university, and how do we make that enhanced success for Arizona? Reach new populations through ASU Sync. A whole new way that we've learned through COVID. Work with Arizona community colleges on joint bachelor's degrees. We've been shot down 10 times trying to do this. Shot down. They keep saying, well, you're the Borg. Meaning how do we work with you? Because you're just going to assimilate us. Not true. Expand ASU West and ASU Polytechnic campuses. So we've given Jim Rund a special assignment, a strategic assignment as one of the most experienced and long-standing executives at ASU to focus with academic enterprise and with others, but to take on the task of now strategically advancing our success with those 2 campuses. They're very successful academically, much more successful than they've ever been. They've been integrated into a single accreditation, a single university, a single faculty. We didn't have any of this when Phil Vandermeer started on the faculty. They're all separate accreditations, separate kinds of places. They might not even have existed that far back. Were they here in the 40s, Phil, when you came? That means no. And then ASU Prep and ASU Prep Digital to continue to work with the K-12 system. I'm not going to walk through all of these, but you can see the kinds of goals that we're headed towards, and all of this is enhanced by technology. ASU West, ASU Poly, work with the community colleges. We're really trying to do this. Reach new populations. This might be a whole new way to pick up your master's degree in some important area, and then you never leave your house, but you're physically present, digitally, physically present live at the university. It's a whole new thing. Transform student success through all of these things. So what are we doing here, Lev, on this one? This low to no bandwidth areas of Arizona. This is a huge thing where the universities are working together, and Lev and others were trying to get the state to make some investments with some of the federal resources that they have to make sure that nobody's left out of the ability to gain access to the internet.
That's the answer. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, but you have to do it. So how
yes, it's actually pretty hard lifting.
I don't know how to do it.
And again, we've got undercapitalized investment in broadband connectivity throughout the rural communities here. We're starting with taking some of the content that we have in offline, delivering full libraries to communities, some of our reservations and the like, and then working together to actually take advantage of the current moment. This is apropos the question of federal investment. There is unprecedented, massive federal investment coming to connect rural America, and of course, we have lots to work on in that regards, and making sure that education is central to the strategy of actually why do you want to connect Arizonans.
I'm gonna pick on Kyle now for a while, so I'm gonna walk over here. So Kyle, Nancy won't even look at me when I do this. Sally won't look at me. Kyle, are we hiring anybody in engineering? Who are we hiring in engineering? This is related to the new economy initiative. So remember, one of the things that we said to the state is that we would build the largest, greatest, most impactful, most successful engineering school that humans have ever built. And I don't say that as a joke. That is what we're attempting to do. So what do we have to do that?
We have to hire a lot of faculty.
How many faculty?
Hundreds.
Yes. How many do we have now?
We have about 370 tenure track faculty.
And how many other faculty? So total faculty?
Total faculty is approaching 500.
So total faculty in engineering is approaching 500. How many will we have when we're done with this process?
So another 100-ish tenure track. So that would be approximately 450 to 470 tenure track, and approximately another 100 lecturers.
Yeah. So
nearly 700.
And is that easy to do?
That's
Is
very
it easy
hard
to hire engineering faculty?
It's very, very hard.
Some of the regents that were there last night saw one of our engineering faculty working on one of the most complicated things that you can possibly imagine. I wasn't sure if he was robot or human or some hybrid of all these things, but so Kyle, what's the hardest part of what you're trying to do?
So recruiting those faculty, they're talented, they're in demand, they're each individual.
Are they cheap?
Ventures, they're costly in every way.
Because they come with not only high salaries, but they come with.
When we hire a faculty member, it's hiring the person, it's offering them a competitive salary, it's providing a startup, that is to furnish their lab, to provide student support, travel, that is all.
Is that ever in the millions of dollars?
It's easily in the millions.
Millions for one person. And then Sally, what are you worried about relative to Kyle?
I can't answer that one.
Yes, you
but
can.
This goes back to the point that Rich made, which is making sure that our resources on the university and here, space and facilities are mapping with where we want to go strategically. And sometimes you have to be just pragmatic. You have an opportunity and you've got to move in that direction. So I think that's a challenge, trying to plan for that.
Kyle, when will we become the number one producer of engineers in the United States?
We either are or will probably be this year.
That's a significant thing, and that was one of our assignments. And all the way back to Regent Jack Jewett on the date of July 1st, 2002, I said, Jack, we're going to spend a lot of time building up our ability to advance in engineering while we also build the rest of the institution. So Morgan, what are we going to try to build at the entrance of the new innovation corridor on the Polytechnic campus, and what are we doing there? And then Sally, what is this thing that Morgan's going to talk about? What does it mean?
We have in detailed planning now a new headquarters for our new School of Engineering, the School of Manufacturing Systems and Networks. It will be a mixed-use facility in that it will have classrooms both for the engineering school and other programs that are on the Poly campus, as well as offices, as well as collaboration spaces, as well as laboratories. And we are putting it on sort of the southwest corner of Innovation Way, which for those of you who are familiar with the Poly campus, circles the core campus, which historically is a repurposed Air Force base that was acquired by the university through base realignment and closing process.
We give a little bit of this information just to help regents that are coming on board. Oh, by the way, the federal government gave us hundreds of acres of an old Air Force base. Here it is. Good luck.
So this will be kind of a connector, both physically and symbolically, between the core academic campus and one of our innovation zones that we are standing up next to the Poly academic campus. So it's very exciting, and a lot of the people that are in Knowledge Enterprise that Sally leads are involved with collaborating with industry. We know that the semiconductor industry is growing massively in the Valley. This is an important sort of leveraging point to that to be able to assist industry and be even more competitive for the opportunities that we all think are coming in that space. And Sally, maybe I should let you talk about the programmatic initiatives, but this will provide essentially the the foundation for all of these things.
And quick time.
Right. So as Morgan said, it's the location of the new school, and it connects directly to two of the STCs.
Just on the side, just so everybody understands. So we're building another engineering school now in Mesa, Arizona.
Right.
So this is a big deal. We're multi-campus engineering.
So it will be a place where several of those new faculty will be placed that Kyle alluded to. And I think it's important to state this school is not being built using New Economy Initiative funding, but rather other funding. So it's symbiotic with the NEI funding.
These are the 5 approximate areas of the science and technology centers that Sally is leading the design and implementation of, working with the deans. These are key partners that are working with us and that we're working with as we evolve into the New Economy Initiative. This is a highly industrially focused, industrially centric thing. These are the kinds of investments that the state is putting on the table, which is unbelievable, and we're very appreciative for those investments. These are the kinds of things that will happen to the economy and jobs and so forth and so on. And then in addition, we've asked Learning Enterprise. So Maria, what is Learning Enterprise doing with some of the new economy resources also?
Well, President Crow, this connects to your making sure Learning Enterprise is connecting to the core of the knowledge enterprise. And so, for example, one of the 9 courses we're launching in the next 6 months are related to microelectronics that are complementary to the degrees.
Now, these aren't college courses.
No, they're upskilling courses. And so some of them could be for advanced skills and some of them are for folks that don't know anything about the industry. So it's really at all stages of the career
So
pipeline.
when TSMC, which is now spending billions of dollars to build new plants at the intersection of the 303 and the 17 in North Phoenix, says, oh, by the way, I need 3,000 workers, and then I'm moving my whole supply chain here, and they need thousands of workers, and you've got someone that's been working in some adjacent field, but they're not trained in microelectronics. Well, how do they get up to speed quickly? We're going to be available to them to be able to do that with stuff coming from our faculty, which is now being changed in its pedagogical design to the technical level as opposed to the engineering level. So again, back to this beginning. 3 different types of public focus, public enterprise, industrial development, population growth, and now we're focused on human empowerment, the bottom right. We're focused on how do we produce the people that know the ideas, the humanists, the historians, the technologists, the scientists, the business leaders, the artists, the dreamers, the writers, all these things that are going on in the entire institution is what we're trying to do. And that is our update for 2021. So, comments, questions? We have a lot of senior officers of the university. I see a number of the vice provosts, the deans. I see the dean of nursing. I see Peter Schlosser, the head of the vice provost, vice president for Global Futures Laboratory. Here's the hard copy of the presentation. Yes.
This may be too new, but because it's of such scale, would you address the Najafi gift and what that means for Thunderbird and how that fits in?
Yes. So Francis and Dion Najafi gave $25 million gift to ASU through the Thunderbird School of Global Management to allow us to build 5 courses that are MOOCs, massively online courses, massively open online courses, I should say, MOOC. Those courses will be made available to teach the fundamentals of business skills and this is the key point, in 25 languages, 50 languages. The key is the languages. The courses are relatively simple compared to the languages. And so we're investing in this project. Francis and Dion have invested in this project. Thunderbird is on the academic technical lead of the project. It will be supported by all other aspects of the institution. The goal of the donor is, can we impact 100 million people around the world, which is a tiny percentage of the people around the world. That's a high goal. First, you got to put the content together. Nancy, what would you like to add?
Yeah, they're building on their existing degrees, and they're going to be working closely with Maria Anguiano and Learning Enterprise to build out the platforms and then try to figure out the distribution. at a certain point, a small percentage of those people can then, well, many of them can have access to stackable credentials, non-degree credentials that will help them advance in various places around the globe. And then some of them, a much fewer number, might stack into master's degrees and the like. So that's sort of a long-term plan. It's going to require very close working between Ed Plus, Learning Enterprise, Academic Enterprise, Lev's team, and Enterprise Technology. So it's a big project.
And we're not launched yet. We're just getting underway. So Maria, what do you want to add from the Learning Enterprise perspective?
I think Nancy covered it all. Like she said, working very collaboratively. And those goals have been embedded into the Learning Enterprise goals.
So it's, we're just getting started. That's the purpose. That's the goal. We got to, oh, by the way, we gave you the updated, we produce every year the little insert. So that's the updated version showing basically in the most reduced form possible, everything you just saw on 3 pieces of paper, or 1 piece of paper front and back, three folds. Other comments or questions? Yes.
Right now.
Could you just comment on your global enterprises, your satellite campuses, partnerships on your, the growth in that area?
Okay, so Jim O'Brien described Centana and our relationship with Centana and what we're doing there, which is a startup venture. We're just getting underway, but we're moving very quickly.
So as a means of scaling higher education globally, we've elected to take, I think, a slightly different approach. And so rather than investing capital of the university in activities or places around the world, we again found a private sector partner who was interested in working and building a network of institutions, all to be powered by ASU. So what we're doing is connecting the curriculum, the educational assets, and the content produced by our faculty.
Digital, because we have this public good asset through the digital platforms that we have.
In a digital form to a curated group of institutions. We're at 9, we could be at 30 or 40 here in several years. And at those institutions, and you saw the photo earlier where Nancy was in Egypt, that represents one of those institutions. But it's a way to build long-term relationships with a network of institutions branded by ASU, and to bring students from those institutions to ASU in trusted and predefined ways, and building pathways, which makes it easier. This movement of students is often difficult by the complexity of the higher education environment. This network will build an ease of educational experiences for students between and among all of those institutions.
And then those ultimately 50 institutions, the top students from those institutions then will be coming here for their master's degrees, to do a double bachelor's degree. Nancy, it's very complicated. We're still arguing and working it all out, and Kyle doesn't like me anymore, but Nancy.
We're working it out. Yeah.
Other things on the global front, we have a lot of global projects that are being financed. Phil Regier, who I see on the screen, I don't know if he can speak. Can Phil speak from that position?
I can speak.
Yeah, so Phil, we just got a project in Ethiopia. What was that?
Yeah, so the MasterCard.
Phil is the CEO of Ed Plus at ASU, which is the enabling amalgamation of hundreds of individuals who are helping us to do all of this learning technology, learning pedagogy stuff. So Phil.
So we've worked for several years with the MasterCard Foundation to create platforms.
Now we can't hear you.
That would, shall I start
No,
again?
still can't hear you.
I'm talking.
What happened to him?
Can you hear me?
There we go. Go ahead now. Now we got you.
Sorry, we've worked for several years with the MasterCard Foundation to build platforms that would connect scholars in Africa. Initially, we did RFPs for this, but what they've done consistently over the past several years is simply sole source to ASU, the platform development. We just received a contract for about $17 million to connect the 50 African universities with a common LMS, a common student support system, and other initiatives that will allow the
LMS is Learning Management System.
And it'll allow the 50 African universities to be connected and begin moving into the 21st century. The 50.
So again, the government of the United States is exceedingly happy and investing large amounts of resources, because if you haven't been tracking what's going on in the world, there is this other growing center mass power, I think called something like the People's Republic of China, that people are concerned that they're doing many great things in Africa, they're doing many great things in Egypt and other places along the way, and where are the Americans? Well, your university, ASU, and our sister universities also, but we're there, working with them, working with private foundations, working with these governments to help advance educational outcomes, creativity outcomes, alliances, cultural development. I mean, the faculty are from all over the university, all of the programs, and so Regent Ridenour, that's our international program. And there is a strategy to all of this, and we have a person, I don't know if Julia Rosen is on the screen or not. Was she invited to this? I don't
She should have been, but not everybody could make it.
Okay. So did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Regent Herbold.
Yeah, I have a question in regard to faculty. You've talked many times about the online courses with pride are being taught by real professors.
Yes, real faculty, yes.
Given the explosion of the online numbers that we just saw in those charts, this is will create enormous pressure on the faculty to expand, change the nature of what they're teaching, I would imagine, given that the percentage of courses that are online versus in person.
So there's three modalities that we're teaching in right now. So there's full immersion, technology enhanced on-campus learning, like my class that I taught yesterday morning from 7:30 to 10:20. That was me in the classroom, 20 students in the classroom interacting back and forth, and a couple people zooming in because they were not in Tempe. Then there's ASU Sync, which would be us, like a class with the people here. This is the class with people zooming in. And then there's ASU Online, which is asynchronous. Asynchronous, not for all classes, is designed by our faculty, taught by our faculty, managed by our faculty, but is scalable because it's asynchronous. And so,
but it still takes a lot of work to put that stuff together.
But we have a staff. Phil Regier, how many staff do you have?
Over about 225.
And how much, maybe Christian or Rich or Morgan, what are we giving to old Phil over there to keep this thing set up? Rich? What is it? What do we get? What do you get from the university, Phil? How much are we, to Regent Herbold's question, what are we funding you to be able to support the?
About 65 million this year.
A year. So it's a $65 million a year investment to be able to create a service and a capability that can support the faculty to operate in all three modes. And so, Nancy, what do you want to say about the faculty?
Yeah, it does require us to expand our faculty, but in some.
Not as much.
But not as much. In some disciplines, online has grown so explosively that, we're almost, more online students than on ground. Our tenure track faculty like to teach online. They're engaged in that, and it's scalable. So we've got more tenure track faculty actually reaching more students in that modality. So it's changing the ecosystem of how we operate. But the one thing to remember is they are our faculty. They're all part of the same schools. They're all planning together and building the educational curriculum and delivering it together.
Well, so we have, I see Jeffrey Cohen on the screen. So he's the Dean of Humanities in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. And so Jeffrey, who's an English professor himself, are the English professors all completely dead to all this technology, or what are you doing over in the English faculty that you're responsible for?
So one of the amazing things about having so much robust online presence is, well, let me personalize it. I'm the mentor of one of our Indigenous students who works, she actually lives on a reservation about 15 miles outside of Phoenix. And she was doing her degree through School of Sustainability, and she was telling me how much she loved her environmental humanities class. She said it changed her life. Little did she know that the person who was running that online class is Sir Jonathan Bate, Sir Jonathan Bate is one of the few people who've been knighted for work in literary criticism. He is one of the foremost practitioners of the field. And to have this student be able to take an online class with him.
He's one of our faculty members, I might add also. So, John, you might add that Sir Jonathan's one of our faculty members. So.
Sir Jonathan is one of our faculty members. He's designing a new humanities degree for us called Culture, Technology, and the Environment. We have a world-class faculty who reach everyone, both immersion and online, and scalability is the key.
And then what's the two poetry notes that you sent me just in the last 29 hours? What were those two notes about?
So we also run now through Learning Enterprise a course called Poetry in America. Poetry in America so far has reached 2,000.
So through Learning Enterprise.
Students. Sorry?
I'm just trying to help the Regents. So through Learning Enterprise, the Dean of Humanities working with an English faculty member is working with Learning Enterprise to bring in people who are not college students. And so just to contextualize it, so go ahead.
Not college students yet. So these 2,500 students are all at under-resourced high schools, and they have earned or are about to earn 3 ASU credits. There are students. And if you think about it this way, most students in high school, their experience of literature usually turns them off from writing. They just don't see the point. Through this course, they get college level literature designed to have them interact with the most amazing kinds of poetry and learn that they can do it for themselves. So reaching 2,500 high school students and giving them college credit, especially considering the high schools they're at, is quite an achievement.
If I remember correctly, you got your PhD at Harvard and you were most recently on the faculty at George Washington University. So were they doing a lot of internet-based teaching out of the English department at Harvard or the English department at GW?
So one of the reasons we have Poetry in America at ASU is because Harvard could not support it. So Lisa New, she was the endowed chair of poetry at Harvard, is now our faculty member, and it's here. And at George Washington University, by the time I left, I think they had figured out how to put PowerPoint lectures up online and charge for it. I was about where they were.
If you guys are watching, sorry. And so maybe that's far enough on the faculty. So there's a way the faculty have in a sense become capable of now operating in 3 teaching and learning modalities, as well as their creative and discovery modality. I watched something during COVID, which was a group of music students and other students who had designed a musical play, produced the entire play with their faculty members in COVID digitally. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Whole new ways to teach and learn and make things happen. So I don't think that we are experiencing yet. We keep asking, when are we going to reach the threshold? Phil, when are we going to reach the threshold? Or Nancy, when are we going to reach the threshold? Or Maria, when are we going to reach the threshold? And then Kyle, I'm going to pick on you next. So
Phil, start.
The demand.
What's the threshold, Phil?
The demand for what we do is essentially unlimited.
Not the demand, the supply. What's
We
our supply problem?
Look, my target is now 140,000 students, but we could exceed that.
How many new degrees did you produce and design and launch during COVID?
Since COVID started, we've launched probably about 55 degrees.
How many new courses are in those? And that's all with our faculty. So how do we engage a faculty member to work in this space, whether they're in English or history or philosophy or whatever they're in?
So first off, we pair them with an instructional designer. The faculty are subject matter experts in their area, but they don't know much about instructional design. And so we pair them with an instructional designer. And what we do is we take their content and we try and build the greatest possible online course we can using that content. It has to be equivalent in outcomes or better than what they're already serving up to face-to-face students, or we don't want to put it online. That whole process from the first time they sit down with an ID to when they can launch the course generally takes about 6 months. We have over 150 to 180 different tools and technologies that can be embedded in those courses. The instructional designers are experts in what to do and how to do it.
Yeah, I'm not going to pick on Kyle anymore. I'm going to pick on someone else. So I see Ken Rowe there. So Ken Rowe, when you were the director of the School of Life Sciences, you guys were just laying around teaching students on campus that would find your building in random searches, right? And so how, what was the School of Life Sciences like when you left that and became the dean?
So School of Life Sciences has over 7,000 majors, half of whom are online. We've got everything from conservation biology and ecology to history of medicine to basic biomedical sciences online. Just amazing change in terms of accessibility. We've got students getting into the Mayo Clinic Medical School. Just amazing students.
From online, right? Is
From
Stephen
online.
Tepper? Is Stephen on there? I don't see Stephen.
I'm here.
I think I'll pick on. Oh,
I'm here.
Stephen, there you are. So Stephen's the dean of the Herberger Institute for Design and the Arts. Did the art faculty and the design faculty, did they reject all this technology junk?
No, that's what's driving technology. Yeah, we've built a digital photography degree where students, it's a studio-based degree. Students are getting feedback on their compositions and work directly from faculty. We've built a graphic design degree, which is a studio-based degree that grew from 0 to 400. And
that's a really good book right there behind your shoulder there. I like that book.
All your books, Mike. All of those are yours. There's no reason you cannot do high-level, intense, interactive arts and design-based work online, and there's a demand for it, and we're figuring out how to do it at a high level.
So I see Jim O'Donnell there, the university librarian, so in charge of all of our unbelievable collections and assets and so forth. Is anybody using the library other than a few library weirdos like myself that lived in the library? Is anybody else using our library, Jim?
24 by 7 by 365 by 24 time zones. We get logins from almost 200 countries a year from registered ASU users.
And yes.
President Crow, as you know, when we designed the New Economy Initiative, it was about the kind of jobs that are going to be necessary and the kind of graduates that we had to produce an increasing number for. But it was also about the availability of students and changing the attainment rate in the state of Arizona. As you know, in South Phoenix, where we are not located with the university, we have a high proportion of African American and Latino students. If you look at the west side of this metropolitan area, the southwest side, we've seen enormous growth already in Goodyear, Tolleson, those areas. With the extension of the 202, we can anticipate even greater growth in those areas. How can ASU better serve both South Phoenix with its high rate of non-white citizens and residents, and how can we better serve Southwest Maricopa County?
Right, so that's an outstanding question. I appreciate that. And so obviously we're technologically reaching out into schools, K-12. I won't walk back through all of that, but I will ask Dr. Rund to comment on our educational opportunity strategy, which is down at the high school level, at the neighborhood level, with our charter schools, with our technology assets. And then I'm going to ask Maria to talk about our ASU local idea, which is being piloted in California and Washington. And Yuma. So Jim, first.
Appreciate the question.
Stand up so that people can see you.
The ASU Prep educational platform is not about introducing more schools into the Arizona environment. It's about trying to build new models of educational success where we can demonstrate that there's talent in every household in Arizona and that sons and daughters of parents who have not been the beneficiaries of education can still position their children for success. That's why we started at Fillmore and 7th at the school there. We opened another turnaround location in South Phoenix.
These are our physical K-12 schools that we're operating.
Reason, in part to develop a relationship with parents. In households where we know there are a tremendous number of what will be first-generation college students, our first step is to build trust and confidence in the parents.
So talk about South Phoenix, how we're focusing in South Phoenix also specifically.
Well, both schools in Fillmore and 7th and South Phoenix begin with that grassroots effort of helping neighborhoods and communities and school districts understand that Arizona State University is here for them. serving the public purpose of the local community. The question earlier was about what are you worried about? What is your greatest challenge? And, you know, since President Crow arrived, there are 2 million more people that live in this state than there were in 2002. Our biggest challenge is not managing growth. Our biggest challenge is growing fast enough to meet the needs and demand of the people who live here.
So
particularly the
point,
communities that you mentioned.
Go ahead. I just wanted to make a point for the Regents that we believe, in spite of all that you saw, that we're a lagging institution. We're not caught up, as Jim is now expressing. This is a really important thing. We're lagging the need and the demand, lagging it, even in spite of everything that we're doing.
Well, let me defer to.
No, just mention what else we've gotten going in any of the new charter schools, and then the approach that we're taking at those high schools that typically don't send a lot of students to us.
So we're exploring options with micro schools because of the impact of COVID and the impact that has had on the workforce. We have a lot of parents who have been misplaced or displaced in the context of their work and need alternative educational opportunities for their children. So we're piloting that at the West Campus. We'll be working very hard in the West Valley, as you point out, tremendous need there. And so we'll be exploring all options and talking to the various municipalities as well as the school districts about that.
And then our pilot program, Maria, that you're really the architect of and the designer of, that we have a couple up that we're learning from. So in the ASU local case, if we could get this to work, this is a huge thing in terms of Regent Penley, the thing that you just asked.
Well, ASU Local is yet another combination of our different modalities. And so it combines our ASU online programs and the degree students that are supported by EdPlus and Phil's team that we just spoke about, and combines that with an in-person approach, coaching approach, where they're part of a cohort and have a student success coach where they come to our campuses in DC, LA, and in Yuma to work together 10 hours a week on everything from life skills, career skills, any sort of coaching that they would need is provided.
Those sites are the places we're proving out the model, and we have philanthropy backing us up, so.
Correct.
And then how many do you think we don't even know. We think we could put them in neighborhoods, we could put them in different places. They're micro solutions. Morgan, were you gonna add something?
Nope.
Oh, all right, so.
Well, as much as I hate to call an end to this was extremely impressive. Certainly there are no small goals here in any way, shape, or form. And I truly appreciate the charter that ASU takes to heart and the mission that you are working to accomplish. It is.
Well, I can say on behalf of our senior team that we appreciate working with a board that is dedicated to the ultimate goal that we're working toward and allows us to be creative. Many boards, it's as Regent Jewett used to say, he would guide regents away from the question of what was the paint palette that we were using for the painting of the inside of the new boiler inside the new power plant. And so we have no questions like that, and we appreciate that very much. And we appreciate the input and the constructive guidance but also the support. So you all are the owners. You're the representatives of the owner. I am your sole hired manager. You hire one employee, and that would be me for this institution. And then I'm able to find an unbelievable team and work with an unbelievable faculty to fulfill what you all are as the guides of the people, as the owners of the institution. It's not a simple model of the people's representatives overseeing the taxpayers' dollars. That's not how this is working. This is a different kind of thing. And so I had put that slide back up. If you can put up my cover slide, my intro slide, and I'll end with that. Maybe. There we go. So this is the 2022 update of the state of the ASU public enterprise, which you have allowed us to construct. And the university that is a part of that public enterprise and all the things that we're trying to do. So we're just, I think people are pretty excited. We can look at old Chris. Chris, you signed up with Looney Tunes here, buddy.
Chris has a little bit of homework.
So thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. All right, so we have 2 items left on the agenda for the day. The next is the Student Regents Report, and Regents Dave and Conyer have to.
Thank you, Chair Manson.
Yeah.
It's always
Where's your PowerPoint?
Yeah, really. It's always an easy task to follow up after President Crow. So I'll pass it over to Regent Canier to describe some of the work that we've done with the student governments at each of the 3 universities, and then I'll finish off with an update on the Basic Needs Task Force.
Awesome. Thank you, Regent Dave. So the semester is off to a great start for all of the students at our 3 universities, and we've continued to work with them, student leadership especially, with our fireside chats where we discuss initiatives and issues on those 3 campuses. So it's been really encouraging to see the work that's being done and that they're continuing to do, and just support them in their efforts. So that's been incredible. And secondly, we just wanted to highlight the fact that the University of Arizona is currently in the process of selecting and receiving applications for their new student regent. So we wanted to encourage students, if they're interested in stepping up in this amazing opportunity, that they should apply on the Associated Students of the University of Arizona website, and go ahead and take that role on if they so choose.
Awesome. And then as far as the Basic Needs Task Force work is concerned, as per the report that was published in November of last year, and the recommendations within that report, there are institutional committees being formed at each of the 3 universities, the student food and housing working groups or committees. And these committees, I've had the chance of meeting with each of them independently. They're off to the races. They're doing great work in terms of not only determining what new solutions should be created, what new projects should be taken up, but also how can we aggregate all of the work at our institution that's already being done towards this. And so I look forward to each committee's report in June as well. And so with this, there's one note. There was an FAQ posted by the Department of Education on January 20th, which highlights the broad flexibility that each institution and its leaders have on using higher education emergency relief funds to meet the basic needs of students. And so one of the things that we'd like to encourage is our 3 institutions to explore the use of some of these funds or other available funds to really provide startup support for these institutional basic needs committees as they continue to advance their work. And so this funding and these committees not only highlight the support that each institution provides to these new committees, but also allows the committees to hit the ground running in their first year of formation, which will lead to significant downstream effects on student enrollment, retention, and attainment. And so over the last few years, Arizona's public universities have continued to emerge as the thought leaders in supporting our students and their basic needs. And I'm really grateful to have been a part of this work and to continue this work. And I'd like to thank university presidents, regents, administration for their hard work on this topic and their strong drive to support the basic needs of students in Arizona. So with that, we conclude our student regent report.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Comments? Well done. Thank you. Our final item for the day is the report from the Arizona Faculty's Council, and we have Professor Kate Ellis.
Thank you. The Arizona Faculty's Council would like to thank the Arizona Board of Regents for continuing to support ASU, U of A, and NAU's faculty opposition to legislative bills which allow firearms on our university campuses. All 3 university senates passed resolutions in the last week and a half opposing Senate Bill 1123 and House Bill 2447. The AFC views such legislation as a clear danger to the safety, security, and sense of well-being of students, faculty, and staff across the state. We commend the Regents' ongoing efforts to address attainment concerns through your consideration and approval today of Northern Arizona University's proposal for a 6-year pilot exemption from Abort Policy 2-121C, Undergraduate Admission Core Competencies and Requirements. It is important that the Regents and the universities carefully consider how best to support underserved students' populations across the state in achieving their educational goals. Additional educational support will be needed for students who enter NAU with these deficiencies, which will be essential to ensure their success, particularly for students who wish to pursue a math-intensive degree. In addition, even with a modest and deliberate lowering of 2 admission standards to reach more Arizona students, Will we be able to accommodate the increased number of students based on existing resources of faculty, staff, and facilities? We unequivocally support this pilot program, but ask that all costs of the shift during the pilot period away from ABOR's Core 16 requirements be carefully examined in addition to retention and degree completion rates. Finally, in reviewing the retention report, and in acknowledgement that Arizona's state universities have done very well during the pandemic retaining students, we also suggest this report should be viewed as preliminary data requiring further study to learn the nuances of what is happening on our campuses, both online and on ground, particularly with our diverse student populations. There are numerous factors impacting retention at all three universities, not the least of which is the pandemic. We strongly advocate for ongoing investigations into how we are serving our diverse students to ensure we understand the story behind a student's decision to take a semester, a year, or even several years off, but who may still be working to complete their degree. The AFC commends the faculty's efforts at all three universities to support students during these challenging times, and in particular, their work to retain our diverse student populations. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. That was the final item on our agenda today. I have a few announcements before we recess. For those of you attending tonight's event, it's in the Ventana Ballroom, which is around the corner to the left. The reception starts at 5:30 and dinner is at 6. The board is scheduled to reconvene tomorrow morning in executive session at 9 a.m. in the Alumni Lounge for the review of assignments with President Cruz Rivera and President Crow and Executive Director Arnold, and the final remaining items that are on the executive session agenda. So thank you. It's been a good day. I think we learned a lot, and we are in recess until tomorrow morning.